Chapter 1850, died? No wonder. Sir God Chi Feng looked confused. The white-robed woman smiled but didn't reply. Then, she flipped her hand and there was a token. Mother, this is? Sir God Chi Feng looked at the token. This is the communication token of the Master of Star Palace. For the past 3,000 years, I sent many messages to the Master of Star Palace. He replied to me with a few messages in the beginning. Then, for the past 2,000 years, he didn't reply at all, the white-robed woman said. No reply. Sir God Chi Feng was surprised. The Master of Star Palace even visited Mother personally to ask Mother to set up a formation for him. He should be making preparations for an opportunity in the ancient Mystery Land. All these years, he has been staying in ancient Mystery Land. You sent him messages but he didn't reply? Could he be fully concentrated in some sort of opportunity, or could he be carried away with comprehension? Carried away? The white-robed woman smiled. In the beginning, I thought so too. As he went in for an opportunity and he prepared so meticulously beforehand, it would be normal if he received an opportunity in ancient Mystery Land. But later on, about 300 years ago, I sent him another message but he still didn't reply. That's a little strange. Because he and I have an agreement that he would rush to mine 300 years ago and he would complete one task on my behalf. It was also a condition for me to agree to set up the formation for him. The Master of Star Palace is a good person and his reputation is great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have promised him back then. However, when it was our agreed time and he didn't come here, he didn't even send me a message. That was strange. After all, even if he was carried away in the opportunity and he couldn't rush over in time, he could at least reply and inform me. Mother, what you're trying to say is that the Master of Star Palace has died? Sir God Chi Feng stared. Previously it was hard to say. After all, he might be in places with unique space-time and he couldn't send any message. However, I heard from you that Lineage of Star has been acting strange. Especially when I heard about Sword Emperor massacring in madness, I became 70% certain that the Master of Star Palace had died, the white-robed woman said calmly. One should know that Lineage of Star has been at peace for so many years. Although they have many enemies, they never killed their enemies so wantonly before. After all, as long as the Master of Star Palace is alive, Lineage of Star's enemies couldn't stir any trouble. Plus, Jian Wuxuan, although he is young, he could reach where he is now as an inverse cultivator. He is definitely not stupid. He should know that when the limelight is too strong, the risk is high, especially when his identity as an inverse cultivator is so sensitive. There were originally a lot of people who didn't wish to see him grow. At such times, if it isn't necessary, he should get stronger in silence. When his power increases and he breaks through to become an almighty, his wings will be full-fledged and there will be almost no one who can do anything about him. He can do anything he wishes then. He would then truly be able to act wantonly without scruples. By then, it won't be a problem for him to massacre the enemies or even major forces. But it should definitely not be now. Sir God Chi Feng nodded in silence. She felt that what her mother had said made sense. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Ever since Jian Wuxuang's massacre, although it had led to his bad name, it had also made everyone fearful of him. There were a lot of people who wished for him to die. There might even be people who were preparing in silence. It was really too risky. Besides, Lineage of Star has started to rope in experts with all kinds of methods. Everything I said combined, I am determined Lineage of Star definitely has a reason that made them do so. As for the reason, besides the death of the Master of Star Palace, I couldn't think of the second, the white-robed woman said with a smile. Sir God Chi Feng heard her and her heart skipped a beat. Yes, mother, you're right. Only if the Master of Star Palace dies will that Lineage of Star would lose their mainstay. Under helpless circumstances, they took the initiative to kill their enemies, to exterminate them. That's why Jian Wuxuang was keeping a high profile. Sir God Chi Feng agreed with his mother's conclusion. From what she knew, Jian Wuxuang had fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace back then and he had kept silent and lied low after he had been listed on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list. He had been quiet for 6,000 years. In the 6,000 years, Jian Wushuang had improved tremendously. He could totally continue to lay low and continue to improve his power. However, with no symptoms, Lineage of Star had suddenly started massacring his enemies. It was too strange. On top of that, the Master of Star Palace didn't reply to any messages when the agreed time was up. The possibility of the Master of Star Palace's death was extremely high. The Master of Star Palace, such a horrifying existence, he died in ancient mystery land? Sir God Qifeng sighed. The Master of Star Palace, although he was only on the 31st on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, he was considered an outstanding one among peak Emperor gods but not the top. However, the experts in Sanctuary Alliance knew clearly that if the Master of Star Palace were to explode and perform secret skill of Star Palace without scruples, its level of scariness would be above Underworld God, who was the top person among Emperor gods. Such an expert had died? Ancient Mystery Land has many opportunities, but there are even more dangerous places. These places, forget about Emperor gods like the Master of Star Palace, even a great emperor would die without a doubt when they enter. The Master of Star Palace only thought of being a great emperor to serve as a better deterrent to all forces. It was a pity that he belittled the danger. Now that he has died and lost his functions, Lineage of Star, the white-robed woman shook her head slightly. Sir God Qifeng's eyes beamed when she heard that. One should know that Red Glow Fairy Palace and Lineage of Star were on Purple Moon Sanctuary and they weren't too far apart. There was a conflict of interest too. If Lineage of Star were to be in danger, Red Glow Fairy Palace would receive many benefits too. Mother, the news about the Master of Star Palace's death, do you think we should spread it? Sir God Qifeng said. You're the Palace Master of Red Glow Fairy Palace. Do you want to hide or spread the news for Lineage of Star? It's your decision. But one thing, even if you want to spread, it can't be spread from Red Glow Fairy Palace. It must be done through a third person, do you understand? The white-robed woman said. She had a deal with the Master of Star Palace, but there was no friendship. She had helped the Master of Star Palace to set up a formation and it was merely a deal made. Hence, she didn't have the thought to safeguard Lineage of Star. I understand. I will head to Vientiane Tower now. Sir God Qifeng was extremely excited. Chapter 1851. A tossed stone raises 1,000 ripples. There was a high possibility that the Star Palace Master had died. After this piece of news was spread to the Vientiane Tower, it was further spread to the whole eternal chaotic world in an instant. A tossed stone had raised 1,000 ripples. The Sanctuary Alliance and the experts in all the powerhouses of the eternal chaotic world burst into an uproar at once. Of course, after getting the piece of news, many experts doubted the authenticity of it right away. After all, many people knew how frightening the Star Palace Master was. Although he was ranked 30 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, if he were to go crazy, only great emperors could stop him. How would such a powerful existence die so easily? Moreover, even the Vientiane Tower said that there was a high possibility that he had died. This meant that the Vientiane Tower was unable to confirm it for real, probably because of the fact that no one had seen him dying nor seen his body. It was just a guess. As it was only a guess, it was naturally unable to convince everyone. However, the basis for such a guess from the Vientiane Tower was indeed worth pondering about. Firstly, there was no news from the Star Palace Master. No matter who tried to contact him, there would be no reply. This point had already been proven to be true. When quite a number of experts who possessed the transmission token of the Star Palace Master had obtained this piece of news, they tried to contact the Star Palace Master right away. However, there was no reply, and this was the same for the people who were extremely close to the Star Palace Master. Moreover, it was said that one of the great emperors from the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance had tried to contact the Star Palace Master personally. However, there was no reply as well. This meant that the Star Palace Master was definitely in an extremely dangerous situation. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to not reply even to his good friends or a great emperor when one tried to get into contact with him. However, this alone was still not enough to confirm that the Star Palace Master had died. After all, There were some places with special space-time in the ancient mystery land where it would be normal for him to be uncontactable. Next, the Vientiane Tower mentioned the unusual activities of the lineage of Star over the past few years. In particular, Jian Wushuang's wanton massacre. With that, they made a guess, and this had really caused many people to harbor suspicions. Indeed, for the past few years, the lineage of Star had been unusual. For so many years, they had put up with the existence of enemies. However, ever since the Star Palace Master became uncontactable, they started to hunt down those enemies wantonly. There was Jian Wushuang, who was extremely talented. Previously, he had remained silent and laid low for 6,000 years. However, without any warnings, he had displayed his talents abruptly again. This was really challenging other people's level of tolerance toward him. In the Sanctuary Alliance, there were probably many people who did not wish to see him growing to such a frightening state. Hence, it would be best for him to remain silent and lay low during this period of time. As for revealing his talents of his own accord, that was considered stupid. Why would Jian Wushuang choose such a stupid path? Moreover, for the past few years, the lineage of Star had been secretly using all kinds of techniques to recruit some experts. Although there were no agreements made during the recruitment, the lineage of Star indeed had the intention to recruit experts. By adding all these factors together and thinking about it many times, it could not help but make many people suspect if the Star Palace Master had really died for real. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, inside the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Emperor God Tian Shao and the remaining Almighties in the Soaring Heaven King Palace had gathered together. All of you have probably heard about the news. Emperor God Tian Shao looked down. According to my predictions, there is indeed an extremely high possibility of the Star Palace Master being dead. Great. The large number of Sir Gods below revealed delighted expressions. It should be known that when the Star Palace Master went on a killing spree many years ago, some of the experts that he had killed were from the Soaring Heaven King Palace as well. Back then, a grudge was born between the Soaring Heaven King Palace and the lineage of Star. After that, when the Soaring Heaven King Palace had fought with Jian Wushuang, they had suffered heavy losses. By adding this new grudge to the old enmity, the Soaring Heaven King Palace then detested the lineage of Star greatly. After getting to know that the Star Palace Master had died, they were naturally elated. Palace Master, with the lineage of Star losing the intimidation of the Star Palace Master, all the powerhouses will definitely come together and attack them. With that, our Soaring Heaven King Palace will be able to take revenge. Sir God Qing Fu clenched both his fists tightly and said, "Let's not rush things." Emperor God Tian Shao shook his head. Big Brother has still not returned yet. Before we can confirm that the Star Palace Master has really died, we should not act recklessly. After all, if the Star Palace Master really goes crazy, he will be extremely frightening. Before Big Brother returns, the Soaring Heaven King Palace is absolutely unable to stop him. Let's sit back and wait first. We shall think about it after the news has been confirmed. Before that, we only need to make preparations to take action. All right. Many people below nodded their heads earnestly. However, their hearts were filled with excitement that was difficult to conceal. Red Dragon Sanctuary, Evil Light Divine Sect. That old bastard is finally dead? An unusually evil, purple-armored youth, who was more than 3 meters tall, gave an earth-shaking roar and his voice resounded across the hall. At the bottom of the hall, tens of experts were gathered and they were extremely excited as well. It's great that he has died. It's really great that he has died. Back then, this old bastard killed a total of 4 almighties of our Evil Light Divine Sect in one go. Moreover, even the previous sect master died in his hands. This is the greatest humiliation that our Evil Light Divine Sect suffered ever since we were founded. However, it's a pity that our Evil Light Divine Sect has always had no way to take revenge. However, now, he's finally dead. Although he's dead, the lineage of Star that he founded is still there. Kill. Sect Master, let's take action immediately and destroy the lineage of Star. The eyes of some people were scarlet in color and they were filled with murderous intent. Let's not rush things. The unusually evil youth waved his big hands. We must definitely avenge Master. Also, We must get rid of the humiliation that our evil light divine sect has suffered. However, it is still too early now. Although the Vientiane Tower has spread the news of the Star Palace Master dying, there are still some disputes. As such, there needs to be another step of confirmation to determine whether the Star Palace Master is dead or alive. Before that, we cannot act recklessly. Wait, we have to wait. Let's wait until someone is unable to control themselves and take action first. After waiting for the news to be confirmed, it will still not be too late for us to take action. From now on, get someone to monitor each and every action of the lineage of Star tenaciously. The unusually evil youth's orders were made known to the lower levels quickly. The whole Sanctuary Alliance was already seething with excitement, and many old bastards who had secluded themselves from the world were shocked by this piece of news. As for the lineage of Star, they naturally obtained this piece of news immediately. In a secret room in the Sword Star, Jian Wushuang was still trying to raise the level of his force of soul. After so many years, his force of soul had risen slightly. Just then, Palace Master, there's trouble. Hall Master Yuan sent a message over, and his voice was filled with anxiety. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes at once. After that, he went out of seclusion straight away. In a hall which contained a vast void, Jian Wushuang and the other 3 hall masters were seated. The expressions of the 4 of them were extremely ugly. Jian Wushuang's hands were holding on to a token, and the token contained a piece of news that the Vientiane Tower had spread at a shocking speed. As he looked at the piece of news in the token, Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. What should come has finally come. Chapter 1852. Visit the Master of Star Palace had just passed away, and it was a fact. The fact would be found out eventually. Jian Wushuang and the others were mentally prepared. There was someone who had made a speculation that the Master of Star Palace had died based on the inability to get in contact with the Master of Star Palace and the abnormal behavior of Lineage of Star. Although it was beyond Jian Wushuang's expectations, there was no choice. They had to act like that. After all, Ancient Mystery Land only opened once every 5 million years, and it only opens for 10,000 years each time. The moment the limit of 10,000 years was reached, the Master of Star Palace wouldn't exit Ancient Mystery Land. It meant that he had definitely passed away. By then it had been 8,000 years. It was merely 1,000 years earlier than expected. However, they seized the chance to kill a large number of solo experts who harbored grudges against Lineage of Star. Hall Master Yuan, how did the recruitment of experts using Chaos Divine Treasure and other resources go? Jian Wushuang asked. It is going well. Until now, Lineage of Star has got in contact with over 30 solo experts. Among the over 30 solo experts, more than 1/3 of them are quite convinced by the condition we offered. Among the solo experts, there were 2 Emperor Gods. But according to Palace Master's instruction, I have yet to let them give me their answers, Hall Master Yuan reported. It's right to not them answer yet. The news about the Master of Star Palace's death has spread, but it is mere speculation after all. No one is definite that the Master of Star Palace is dead. Before they confirm that, there shouldn't be anyone who has the guts to take action against Lineage of Star. Even if they do come, Lineage of Star shall deal with them. During this time, let the people consider clearly if they want to join Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. Then, Jian Wushuang tapped on the armrest and replied after he thought for a while, the news has spread and the forces in Sanctuary Alliance are definitely in a hubbub. Every one of them is keeping watch of Lineage of Star. They intend to determine what's true or false through our response. The closer we approach the crucial moment, the calmer we should carry ourselves. Even when people send us messages to ask the Master of Star Palace's whereabouts, tell them that the Master of Star Palace is in a unique place in Ancient Mystery Land and there is a hindrance in space-time so we couldn't contact him. If there is anyone who is trying to be funny with us, counter soldiers with arms, water with an earthweir. Regardless of the situation that we are going to face, we of Lineage of Star shall adopt the appropriate measures. Hearing Jian Wushuang's reply, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun nodded heavily. Lineage of Star then was different from before. Even if the Master of Star Palace passed away, Lineage of Star still wouldn't be one that anyone could provoke. Alright, you are dismissed. As usual, do what you usually do, Jian Wushuang. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Yes. The three hall masters nodded. The entire Sanctuary Alliance and the entire eternal chaotic world were talking about the news where the Master of Star Palace had passed away, but Lineage of Star, who had obviously become a public enemy, wasn't shaken at all. All forces kept watch of Lineage of Star but realized that Lineage of Star wasn't any different. Those who should cultivate, continued to cultivate. Those who should wander, continued to wander. Those who should go for an adventure, continued to go for an adventure. It was as though they had never heard of the news. The equanimity made the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance even more confused. They didn't understand if Lineage of Star pretended to be calm or if the Master of Star Palace wasn't dead at all, so they were confident. Those people who were itching to launch an attack settled down in order to not make a rash advance. Such a situation was only maintained for a month's time. 1 month later, outside Universe Galaxy where Lineage of Star was, a shabbily dressed elderly with messy, fiery red hair and a dirty body, like a beggar's, appeared. The slovenly elderly looked at the resplendent galaxy in front of him, and there was a flash of strange light in his eyes. He then said, "Zhu Long, you specially came here to visit everyone in Lineage of Star." His bright and loud voice spread across Universe Galaxy, also traveled into Lineage of Star's lair. The experts in Lineage of Star and the disciples heard the voice, but they weren't surprised. As one of the top forces in Eternal Chaotic World, Lineage of Star, who had befriended some experts, would have some visitors in Lineage of Star occasionally. It was very normal. However, the few higher-ups in Lineage of Star heard the voice and their faces changed. Zhu Long? It must be Emperor God Zhu Long. Hall Master Yuan's gaze grew solemn. Emperor God Zhu Long has nothing to do with Lineage of Star, and he isn't a friend of ours either. We go our own way without interfering with each other. He isn't among the experts that I tried to get in contact all these years either. What did he come here personally for? Who knows? Hall Master Nye Yun asked coldly. Sush. There was an illusionary figure and Jian Wushuang appeared next to Hall Master Yuan. Palace Master, Hall Master Yuan immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Zhu Long, although he isn't a peak Emperor God, he isn't too low-ranked on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list either. He visits personally and we of Lineage of Star can't leave him outside. How about this? Hall Master Yuan, you and Hall Master Gu Xen welcome him in. I will watch in silence. With me here, he shouldn't be able to stir up any trouble, Jian Wushuang said. All right, Hall Master Yuan nodded. Then, Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xen immediately greeted him personally. At the border of Universe Galaxy. Emperor God Zhu Long came personally. We of Lineage of Star are greatly honored to have you as our guest. Hall Master Yuan had just got there and his laughter spread. The slovenly elderly, Emperor God Zhu Long, looked at the two of them. You must be Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xen from Lineage of Star. Emperor God Zhu Long looked calm and composed. However, he thought to himself, I, an Emperor God, came to visit personally, but Lineage of Star only sent 2 Sir Gods to welcome me. Jian Wushuang didn't even come out? He thinks so highly of himself. Of course, he didn't display any displeasure on the surface. Emperor God Zhu Long welcome. Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xen brought Emperor God Zhu Long into Milky Way. Very soon, they arrived in Lineage of Star's lair. On a star where they received visitors, the 3 Hall Masters of Lineage of Star were there. Emperor God Long Zhu sat in front of a long, narrow table, and there were maidservants serving him. As for Jian Wushuang, he never revealed himself. Emperor God Zhu Long, I wonder what's the purpose of your visit in Lineage of Star? Hall Master sat on the highest throne as he asked. Hall Master Gu Xen and Hall Master Nye Yun looked at Emperor God Zhu Long. Chapter 1853 Testing O. After hearing Hall Master Yuan's question, Emperor God Zhu Long became stunned and he laughed. To tell you the truth, I have come this time around to look for the Star Palace Master. Look for the Star Palace Master? The hearts of the 3 Hall Masters moved. Since Emperor God Zhu Long had come at such a time to pay a visit to them, it would definitely be not without any reason. Looking at it then, Emperor God Zhulong had come just to test out the situation. He had wanted to get a feel of the situation in the lineage of Star and also to find out if the Star Palace Master had really died. Although they were certain about this in their hearts, Hall Master Yuan was expressionless on the surface and he said, "Emperor God Zhulong, you should know that the ancient mystery land opened not long ago. As such, our palace master has been staying there over the past few years and to date, he has still not returned yet. It's all right that he has not returned yet. It will be fine as long as he fulfills the matter that he promised me back then," Emperor God Zhulong said. "The matter that he promised you? When and what did our palace master promise you?" Hall Master Yuan was still indifferent. Not long ago, before he entered the ancient mystery land, he had once asked some experts and I to help him deploy a formation. As a condition, he promised to let us into the scripture depository of the lineage of Star to cultivate the secret skill of Star Palace. "Do you know of this matter?" Emperor God Zhulong asked with a stern expression. "What?" Hall Master Yuan's expression changed. At the same time, he knew immediately that Emperor God Zhulong was definitely lying. To the Star Palace Master, the secret skill of Star Palace was extremely important and he would absolutely not promise Emperor God Zhulong that he could cultivate it. The reason why Emperor God Zhulong dared to say this then was because it was nothing but a form of test. Since no one was able to contact the Star Palace Master then, no matter what he said, it could not be confirmed. "Emperor God Zhulong, I am unable to contact our palace master now. Hence, I do not know if there is really such a matter. Hence, are you able to wait for another period of time for our palace master to come out from the ancient mystery land? By then, it will still not be too late for you to come again," Hall Master Yuan laughed. "Wait for another period of time? I do not have the time and energy to continue waiting." Emperor God Zhulong's expression turned grave. "The Star Palace Master promised me that a long time ago. No matter what, I want to cultivate that secret skill of Star Palace today. I'm sorry, before the Palace Master returns, it is impossible for me to let you go to the scripture depository," Hall Master Yuan said right away. This is the way your lineage of Star treats a guest?" Emperor God Zhulong gave a cold snort, slammed the table and jumped up in anger. His voice was filled with fury and the most important thing was that with his divine power, his voice spread across the whole lineage of Star and a large number of expert disciples in the lineage of Star heard the cold snort. In no time, the lineage of Star burst into an uproar. "What's going on?" This voice is the same as the expert called Zhulong from before and it should be from the expert who came to pay a visit to the lineage of Star. However, looking at it, his discussion with the Hall Masters is not going well. Quite a number of deacon elders and disciples headed toward the constellation. Such a scene had caused the expressions of Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun to turn ugly. Just then, "Emperor God Zhulong, right? You really have a short temper." All of a sudden, an ice-cold voice could be heard and it reverberated across the universe. After that, a young man who carried a sword on his back walked over slowly. "It's Hall Master Wushuang. Hall Master Wushuang has come." When the deacon elders and the disciples of the lineage of Star saw Jian Wushuang, they revealed scorching hot expressions in succession. Those deacon elders and disciples still did not know of the news that the Star Palace Master had died. As such, they naturally did not know that Jian Wushuang had already become the new Palace Master. Thus, they still addressed Jian Wushuang as Hall Master Wushuang. Upon seeing the person who had come, all the anger that Emperor God Zhulong possessed originally dissipated at once. Sword Emperor, Emperor God Zhulong wore a smile. After all, Hall Master Yuan and the other two Hall Masters were Sir Gods and he did not need to care about them. However, Jian Wushuang was ranked 30th in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Hence, he did not dare to be furious in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shot a glance toward Emperor God Zhulong. After that, his body turned vague and he appeared at the highest point of the hall. His ice-cold eyes then looked at Emperor God Zhulong. "No matter what our palace master promised you before, you will still need to wait for our palace master to return to the lineage of Star first. Moreover, after it has been confirmed, you will be able to get your reward. Before that, You had better wait quietly. I was too impatient. Emperor God Zhu Long laughed with embarrassment. However, after another hundreds of years, I will need to make a trip to the second layer, which is quite dangerous. Before that, I hope to obtain the secret skill of Star Palace to help myself stay alive. If I were to wait for the Star Palace Master to come back from the ancient mystery land, it would obviously be too late. Hence, how about this? Sword Emperor, is it possible for you to tell me the current location of the Star Palace Master? I will go to the ancient mystery land personally to look for him and then get him to send a message back. Is that all right? Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang laughed with ridicule. What a joke! Our palace master has just obtained a great opportunity and he is at the most critical stage. At this point of time, why would I tell you his current location? Emperor God Zhu Long, you really know how to imagine the wildest things. Even if he is in a critical stage, transmitting a message is as easy as blinking an eye and it will absolutely not affect him. Sword Emperor, since you are unwilling to tell me his current location, could it be that the Vientiane Tower's guess is right and that the Star Palace Master has already died? Emperor God Zhu Long's eyes had a strange expression and he was staring at Jian Wushuang. Similarly, his words were spread intentionally using his divine power and they reverberated across the whole lineage of Star. In particular, the last few words resounded repeatedly and they did not dissipate even after a long time. When the deacon elders and the large number of disciples in the lineage of Star heard that, all of them were stunned. Palace Master has died? Is this real or fake? Many deacon elders and disciples became dumbfounded. As for Jian Wushuang, his expression turned cold abruptly and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. You're courting death. With a cry, 3 brilliant rays of golden light appeared at the same time. Swish, swish, swish. The moment the 3 rays of golden light appeared, they changed into a golden rainbow, pierced the void and appeared in front of Emperor God Zhu Long. Not good. Emperor God Zhu Long's expression changed greatly. His motive this time around for coming was to get a feel of the situation in the lineage of Star. He had never thought of fighting head-on with Jian Wushuang, who had a mighty name. Moreover, he recognized the 3 rays of golden light. They were the 3 Hongjun golden swords, the treasures that the Sword Emperor was famous for. Rumble! Powerful divine power burst forth. In a dangerous situation, Emperor God Zhu Long unleashed his full power. His big hands were covered with a great amount of flames and he unleashed 3 palm attacks in succession instantly. Bam! 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 3 booming sounds could be heard in succession and every booming sound was accompanied by the appearance with a giant black hole. After the booming sound, puff! Emperor God Zhu Long spit out a mouthful of blood wildly. Chapter 1854 Jian Wushuang's Strength. Then, Emperor God Zhu Long could only feel his internal organs burning and his aura instantly grew dispirited. At the same time, his heart was shivering with fright. He's too strong, just as stated on the information. Jian Wushuang's 3 Hongjun golden swords are as powerful as a hit of a peak Emperor God each. The combination of the 3 could simply suppress an ordinary peak Emperor God. Virm, virm, virm. The 3 golden lights floated in the void and floated in front of Emperor God Zhu Long. With Jian Wushuang's willpower, the 3 Hongjun golden swords would attack again and kill Emperor God Zhu Long. Sword Emperor, spare my life. Emperor God Zhu Long quickly begged for mercy. I do not have bad intentions. I do not harbor malice. You do not harbor malice? Right, you do not. However, the purpose of your visit and what you are thinking in your head, you and I know clearly. There's no need for bullshit. Listen up, go back and tell the people behind you that they'd better send some powerful experts if they intend to probe lineage of Star and find out if our palace master passed away. If they have the power to force lineage of Star into a desperate situation, into a corner, then they will find out. What's the purpose of sending rubbish like you? Jian Wushuang sneered. Emperor God Zhu Long heard and felt angry. One should know that he was an emperor god and his ranking on heaven and earth's supreme ranking list wasn't low, but in the end, Jian Wushuang had referred to him as rubbish? Emperor God Zhu Long, I will give you 2 options now. Either you stay here, or you **CK off. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Emperor God Zhu Long looked furious, but he couldn't let loose. He could only hold back his anger and turn to leave. Watching Emperor God Zhu Long leave, the surrounding hall masters let out breaths of relief. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. He looked at the deacon elders and disciples that had gathered around him. The elders and disciples looked on in distress. They were obviously affected by what Emperor God Zhu Long said. "What you all of you doing standing here? Go ahead and do what you must," Jian Wushuang bellowed. The elders and disciples looked at Jian Wushuang in reverence and then turned to leave. Although they left, their emotions would be hard to calm down. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. "I never thought that Emperor God Zhu Long would make that move," Jian Wushuang's voice was low. Emperor God Zhu Long tried to probe verbally, and Jian Wushuang was mentally prepared. Even when he intentionally became angry, it was within Jian Wushuang's expectations as well. However, Jian Wushuang had never expected that Emperor God Zhu Long would intentionally spread the news about the Master of Star Palace's death within Lineage of Star so that the elders and disciples would hear of it. One should know that the founder of Lineage of Star, the Master of Star Palace, was truly the mainstay. As long as he was alive, Lineage of Star would be in safe hands. However, even though the news about the Master of Star Palace's death had yet to be verified, the elders and disciples in Lineage of Star would inevitably be suspicious. Especially when the news spread to the other elders and disciples, everyone would panic and Lineage of Star would lose its order. At such a crucial moment, unless the Master of Star Palace revealed himself again, the situation would be hard to deal with. "I really want to kill Emperor God Zhu Long earlier," Jian Wushuang said coldly. Emperor God Zhu Long came to visit after all, and he never provoked Lineage of Star in public. "If we were to kill him in Lineage of Star, it would be unreasonable," Hall Master Yuan said. "I know, that's why I held back," Jian Wushuang said. "However, they didn't give ourselves away when Emperor God Zhu Long probed." The forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance still couldn't be sure if the Master of Star Palace passed away. "It's all right, but we have to comfort our elders and disciples. Hall Master Yuan, please take care of this." "No problem. I know what to do," Hall Master Yuan replied. Jian Wushuang nodded and then returned to Sword Star to begin cultivation. He had to grasp every minute and second to increase his power. On the other hand, not long after Emperor God Zhu Long had left Lineage of Star, he appeared in a unique void. There were 4 thrones floating in the void, and there were 4 figures seated on the throne. Of course, the 4 figures were merely consciousness incarnation. They represented the 4 major forces in eternal chaotic world. For instance, Emperor God Tian Shao from Soaring Heaven King Palace, his consciousness embodiment was among the 4. Emperor God Long Zhu, how did it go? Emperor God Tian Shao looked at him. Needless to say, judging by his look, he definitely got rejected, an evil-looking elderly teased. Emperor God Zhu Long humphed coldly, then he took out a token. "This is the mirror image after I entered Lineage of Star. I recorded it with the token. I have probed whatever I can. As for the result, you can determine it on your own." Then, Emperor God Zhu Long left. He had gone to probe Lineage of Star personally because of the benefits that the 4 major forces had offered. He had already acted according to the 4 major forces' requirements. He didn't care about the final result. After Emperor God Zhu Long had left, the 4 consciousness embodiment on the throne immediately watched the mirror image. The 4 of them were quiet after they saw the scene within Lineage of Star. "Did you notice anything?" Emperor God Tian Shao looked at the other 3 figures. "No," the evil-looking elderly shook his head. From the beginning until the end, the experts from Lineage of Star were calm and composed. As for Sword Emperor, he was as overbearing as ever. Besides, the elders and disciples in Lineage of Star looked like they didn't know the news about the Master of Star Palace's death. Calmness can be forged. As for the elders and disciples, it's normal that they wouldn't know about the death of the Master of Star Palace. It is such a major news. The moment it spread, the entire Lineage of Star would be in chaos. If I were to be Sword Emperor, I definitely wouldn't announce it either. The one that I truly care is Sword Emperor. His strength is shocking, a brawny, middle-aged man said. Before the news about the master of Star Palace's death spread, it was normal that he is so overbearing. But now, one should know that Emperor God Zhulong is an emperor god and there is a strong force backing him up. However, Sword Emperor got furious because of his one line and Sword Emperor injured him directly. If they weren't in Lineage of Star's lair, I reckon he might have killed Emperor God Zhulong directly. Chapter 1855 The First to Do I? After pausing for some time, the stalwart, middle-aged man continued speaking. This Sword Emperor is so aggressive and he is not impudent at all. This is not something that he can pretend to be so easily and he must definitely be extremely confident to do it. Moreover, where exactly did his confidence come from? The three people by the side looked at each other. Jian Wushuang's confidence? Subconsciously, they thought about the Star Palace Master. Could it be that the Vientiane Tower's prediction is really wrong and that the Star Palace Master is not dead at all? Instead, he has only entered a special place and he is unable to contact the outside world? The evil old man said, "It is hard to say. However, we are unable to come to a conclusion with just Emperor God Zhulong alone," Emperor God Tianshao said. They did not know that Jian Wushuang's confidence did not come from the Star Palace Master. Instead, it was from the power that he possessed, as well as the large number of trump cards that the Lineage of Star had. With Jian Wushuang bringing many Dao soldiers back to the Lineage of Star and an expert from the ancient past overseeing things, as well as his own abilities, Jian Wushuang and the Lineage of Star were still extremely confident even though they had lost the Star Palace Master. Especially Jian Wushuang. From the start of his training to date, he had come across all kinds of dangers and he had been used to it since a long time ago. Moreover, he had already thought of a way out. If a great battle were to really break out and the Lineage of Star were unable to compete against its opponents even after using all its trump cards and powers, he would at least bring some core experts of the Lineage of Star and escape to the Green Fire world. Over there, not only was it hidden and no one knew about it, there was a great formation that his master, Shen Yi, had deployed. As such, no one could do anything to them. The most important thing was that the training environment in the Green Fire world was a lot better than that of the 10 sanctuaries. As such, he could absolutely stay at the Green Fire world and hide there for a period of time to allow his sword servant, Jian Yi, to completely recover his abilities. Then, with the fighting capabilities of a great emperor, even if the Green Fire world were to appear again, who would dare to act recklessly? Of course, Jian Wushuang would only do this at the final stage when there was no other choice. Furthermore, due to the presence of this route of retreat, Jian Wushuang was not afraid in the slightest bit. If we really want to know if the Star Palace Master has died, there are only two ways to do it, the stalwart middle-aged man said with a heavy voice. Firstly, we will wait for the ancient mystery land to close. Then, we will see if the Star Palace Master comes out from the ancient mystery land. However, there is still more than 1,000 years' time before the ancient mystery land closes. More than 1,000 years' time was considered nothing to these old bastards who stood at the highest point of the eternal chaotic world and had lived for an unknown number of years. To them, it was just the instant of flicking a finger. However, if they had to wait for another 1,000 over years then, they would feel uneasy. After all, Jian Wushuang's speed of growth was too fast. His speed of growth was really incredible. In more than 1,000 years' time, there was a high possibility that his abilities would rise again. Moreover, the most important thing was that during the 1,000 years, the Lineage of Star could make ample preparations to deal with the upcoming danger. Moreover, they could move the core experts of the Lineage of Star, as well as the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace, to another location secretly. Then, even if they were to fight their way in, what they would destroy would simply be an empty shell. In more than 1,000 years' time, there would be many changes, the evil old man said. If we do not wish to wait for more than 1,000 years, we can only use the second way, as Jian Wushuang said. We have to force the Lineage of Star into a hopeless situation. In order to do this, we need someone to lead a big group of experts and fight their way into the Lineage of Star. The stalwart middle-aged man's voice was cold. The three people by the side nodded their heads in succession. If the lineage of Star were already in a hopeless situation and the Star Palace Master did not show himself or there was no news about him at all, then it meant that he had died. However, the key question was, who would they get to do that? Tian Shao, during this period of time, your soaring Heaven King Palace has had the fiercest fight against Jian Wushuang. Hence, it would be extremely logical for your soaring Heaven King Palace to fight your way to their doorstep now. The stalwart middle-aged man looked in the direction of Emperor God Tian Shao. Forget about my soaring Heaven King Palace. During the intense battle with Jian Wushuang previously, we lost quite a number of almighties. If we were to have a life and death kind of great battle with the lineage of Star again, even if we were to win, my soaring Heaven King Palace would be close to destruction. Emperor God Tian Shao laughed apathetically. How about the three of you? For the past few years, your powerhouses have already recovered to your peaks. Why not make a trip to the lineage of Star? You should know that if you are the first one to fight your way into the lineage of Star, the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace will belong to you. My Divine King Island is not so established, unlike the powerhouses of the three of you. Hence, we do not have the means to go against the lineage of Star. The stalwart middle-aged man shook his head repeatedly. With the appearance of the ancient mystery land, more than 70% of the almighties of my real martial arts divine church have gone there to travel. For a short amount of time, we are unable to organize a team of experts to fight their way into the lineage of Star. The evil old man laughed. As for the last person, he said right away, my highest heaven emperor mansion will not do it. Upon seeing such a scene, Emperor God Tian Shao's eyes squinted and he laughed coldly within his heart. Although the four powerhouses had gathered together then, they had not been united since the start and all of them had their own selfish motives. They were still not sure about the lineage of Star's situation and the Star Palace Master's death was not confirmed yet. In addition, they knew that they might obtain the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace if they were to be the first one to fight their way into the lineage of Star. However, no one dared to do it. Since no one is willing to take action, let's disperse. Emperor God Tian Shao waved his hands and his figure was the first one to dissipate it. The remaining three people laughed nonchalantly. After that, they disappeared from the void. In no time, the news that Emperor God Zhulong had paid a visit to the lineage of Star and was seriously injured by Jian Wushuang due to him talking recklessly spread within the Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang's aggressiveness had caused quite a number of people to be extremely surprised. Such aggressiveness! This Sword Emperor is probably very confident. Could it be that the Star Palace Master is not dead? Who knows? However, now, if we want to find out whether the Star Palace Master has really died, it will be totally useless to rely on a simple test. Someone has to take action and fight a great battle with the lineage of Star. Moreover, he must force the lineage of Star into a hopeless situation. However, the key thing is, who will be willing to be the first one to do it? The first one to do it. These words were indeed used appropriately. Although the first person to do it would take the greatest benefit, he would need to face the greatest amount of risk. Sticking one's neck out, everyone knew this saying. If the Star Palace Master were not dead, this first person who did it would face the merciless massacre of the Star Palace Master. Although a great number of powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance were ready to start something, none of them was willing to be the first one to do it. For the next 10 years' time, even though the Sanctuary Alliance and the whole eternal chaotic world were seething with excitement, no one dared to take action against the lineage of Star. Until one day. Chapter 1856. Abysmal Palace. In the lofty palace, there was a total of over a dozen figures that stood there waiting. Among the dozens of people, the one leading was a middle-aged man in a baggy green robe. The middle-aged man was tall and well-built, and his aura was enough to shock an ordinary emperor god. His name was Wuluo, Palace Master Wuluo, a peak emperor god in the 25th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. One should know that Emperor God Lu Guang, who Jian Wushuang had invited to destroy Deluge Fortress regardless of the price he paid, was only in the 27th place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. Palace Master Wuluo was slightly stronger than Emperor God Lu Guang. However, A strong existence like him was standing in reverence before a dark, blurry figure floating in front of him. The dark figure was very dark. When he was there, it was as though there wasn't any light in the universe. Go ahead. Go and kill Jian Wushuang. There's no reason for lineage of star to continue to exist. The dark figure said, and his figure slowly dispersed. Palace Master Wu Luo watched the blurry figure disperse in reverence. Then he stood in front of the experts and waved, "Let's go to Star Land." Very soon, the news spread like wildfire in Sanctuary Alliance. Abysmal Palace was going to attack Lineage of Star. Ever since the news of the Master of Star Palace's death had spread, they had been standing at the heart of the struggle. However, as the news had yet to prove its veracity, it was still at peace. However, all forces and sects were eyeing Lineage of Star with hostility. They were all waiting to see who was the one who loses patience first. Who would be the bird at the head of the pack? Then, Abysmal Palace obviously could hold back no more. Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Niu Yun gathered at the hall. Abysmal Palace, who would have guessed it would be Abysmal Palace? Hall Master Yuan's face grew grave. One should know that although Lineage of Star had offended many forces and experts, Abysmal Palace wasn't one of them. Then, the forces and experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star didn't take action, but Abysmal Palace was the first. Abysmal Palace, Abysmal Saint Master, I will remember this. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands as his eyes gave out a chilly gleam. Abysmal Palace was one of the major forces in Sanctuary Alliance. They were also the top 3 superb forces in terms of foundation and power among the forces in Sanctuary Alliance. In terms of foundation, power, and fame, Abysmal Palace was much scarier than Soaring Heaven King Palace. In Abysmal Palace, the number of Almighties alone was more than 20 and there were 4 Emperor Gods. As for Palace Master Wu Luo, he was in the 25th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. He wasn't the scariest. The scariest was the founder of Abysmal Palace, Abysmal Saint Master, who was in 3rd place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, who was on par with Red Dragon King, second to Emperor Bai. They were already so powerful themselves. In addition, they had a great emperor who was in 3rd place, Abysmal Saint Master, who backed them. Just how scary Abysmal Palace would be. Under normal circumstances, even Soaring Heaven King Palace, which was barbaric, would exercise self-control when dealing with Abysmal Palace. Abysmal Palace and Lineage of Star shared no resentment. During the Master of Star Palace's massacre back then, Abysmal Palace hadn't partaken in the war, nor had the Master of Star Palace killed any of their men. However, they were the first who took action against Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang immediately realized that Abysmal Palace wasn't aiming for Lineage of Star, but their main target was actually him. Abysmal Saint Master wanted to kill him. As for the reason behind it, Jian Wushuang was sure. Back when he had met Abysmal Saint Master in Deluge Fortress, he could tell that Abysmal Saint Master hadn't liked him and held a faint murderous intention. However, the people in Sanctuary Alliance knew. Hall Master Yuan, only Abysmal Palace is coming after Lineage of Star alone? Jian Wushuang asked. It seems to be so on the surface, Hall Master Yuan answered. On the surface? How about at the back? Jian Wushuang asked closely. I have no exact answer. However, there must be many forces and experts that follow Abysmal Palace. However, before Abysmal Palace forces Lineage of Star to play our strongest trump cards, they won't have the guts to take action, Hall Master Yuan said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded and there was billowing murderous intention in his eyes. He looked at the 3 Hall Masters in front of him and he spoke with a cold voice. As Abysmal Palace is taking action, it was definitely Abysmal Saint Master who told them to. However, Abysmal Saint Master is a great emperor and he is restrained by Sanctuary Alliance. The fight between Lineage of Star and Abysmal Palace, no matter how ferocious the fight becomes, as long as we do not step foot in the lair of Abysmal Palace, he won't get involved. Plus, it was the Master of Abysmal Palace who took the initiative to attack Lineage of Star, so we won't have to worry. As Abysmal Palace wants to be the bird at the head of the pack, lineage of star can only go all out and knock it down. Hearing what Jian Wushuang had said, the three hall masters clenched their hands and let out a chilliness. Lineage of Star was different from before. Even without the master of Star Palace in the commanding position, they wouldn't be bullied as one wished. As Abysmal Palace wanted to come, they naturally would counterattack with full force. Hall Master Yuan, send a command down. Tell the experts and disciples of Lineage of Star who are on Starland to immediately return to Universe Galaxy at their fastest speed. As for experts in other sanctuaries and wandering elsewhere, you don't need to chase them back. Also, from now on, keep watch of Abysmal Palace. I want to know their every move, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. Yes, Hall Master Yuan immediately sent down the command. After receiving the command, the experts and disciples of Lineage of Star immediately returned to Universe Galaxy at their fastest speed. 10 days later, a huge warship appeared on Starland. The warship didn't conceal itself but plunged towards Lineage of Star's lair at its top speed after it descended. They charged forward very quickly and weren't hindered at all. Lineage of Star received the news the very moment they descended as well. Palace Master, Abysmal Palace is already in Starland. They rushed over in a spaceship, and according to the information that our spy got, there is a total of 18 people in the spaceship. They are all almighties. Among, there are 3 Emperor Gods and 15 Sir Gods. They are led by Palace Master Wu Luo himself, Hall Master Yuan reported solemnly. They arrived very quickly, and there are so many experts. 3 Emperor Gods, 15 Sir Gods, this team formation. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Chapter 1857, Meeting Enemies Head-On. Back then, with Fortress Master Hong Tian as the leader, Deluge Fortress gathered a total of 13 almighties, and this power was already extremely shocking. It was only because of the fact that Jian Wushuang had invited Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiao Yin along that he had managed to destroy the Deluge Fortress. However, the Abysmal Palace's lineup then was a lot more powerful than the Deluge Fortress. In particular, they had Palace Master Wu Luo, who possessed an impressive amount of fighting capabilities. Palace Master Wu Luo was ranked 25 on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he was slightly more powerful than Emperor God Lu Guang. Moreover, even Jian Wushuang had to admit that this lineup was extremely powerful. The stronger the lineup, the better it will be. Jian Wushuang's voice was ice cold. Now, most of those experts that my Lineage of Star are trying to recruit are still looking on from the sidelines, and they are unable to make a decision. That is because, to date, they are still unable to see whether the Lineage of Star will survive, and they feel that it is no different from digging their own graves if they were to join the Lineage of Star now. However, if my Lineage of Star were able to reveal powerful fighting capabilities and show that we are extremely frightening, those experts will then be able to have hope and be willing to join my Lineage of Star at this stage. For them to become top experts, all of them had to be intelligent and crafty. For a powerhouse that was about to be destroyed, even if it were to offer good rewards or conditions that could attract them, they would definitely not agree to it. However, if they were to think that the powerhouse might not be destroyed and that it had great potential, that would be completely different. Moreover, they might even join of their own accord. The Abysmal Palace's appearance has given the Lineage of Star a chance instead. A chance to reveal to everyone our absolute abilities. Our Lineage of Star must definitely win this battle. Moreover, we must have a great victory, and we must use this great victory to frighten everyone. Jian Wushuang's chilly voice reverberated across the area. The 3 hall masters below were filled with excitement as well. So what if it were the Abysmal Palace? As long as the Abysmal Saint Master was unable to show himself, the Lineage of Star had nothing to fear. Palace Master, we have gotten news that the spaceship that the Abysmal Palace is riding on has already appeared near the Cloud Island. I reckon that in half a day's time, they should be able to fight their way to outside the Universe Galaxy, Hall Master Yuan said. There's no need for us to wait for another half a day. We shall head out right away and meet them head-on, Jian Wushuang said at once. Meet them head-on? Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun looked in the direction of Jian Wushuang. They had originally thought that Jian Wushuang had wanted to use the geographical features of the universe galaxy, a trump card, to his advantage and then fight with the Abysmal Palace head-on. However, Jian Wushuang wanted to take the initiative to fight his way to them. It's just an Abysmal Palace and there is no need for the lineage of Star to expose a trump card like the universe galaxy. Even if we were to meet them head-on, the lineage of Star would still be able to have a great victory. Jian Wushuang said right away. Meet them. Meet them head-on. The three hall masters nodded their heads earnestly. At once, Jian Wushuang led the two Sir Gods, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun personally along with Jin. As for Hall Master Yuan, he was a weapon spirit and he was unable to go out to meet the enemies. Moreover, he had to stay to take charge of the universe galaxy. In a vast void in the starland, a giant spaceship was traveling forward with shocking speed. In the spaceship, the 18 Almighties of the Abysmal Palace were all gathered inside. There are quite a number of people following behind me. There are even a few Almighties as well. A silvery white-armored, arrogant youth, who wore an alluring smile, was chatting. Those people are all scouts from all the powerhouses. Previously, all of them were worried as to whether the Star Palace Master was really dead. Hence, all of them were extremely fearful and they did not dare to act recklessly. And now, my Abysmal Palace has become the first to take action for them, a green-clothed young lady said. The first to take action? My Abysmal Palace does not care at all. After all, in front of absolute abilities, everything else is non-existent. The arrogant youth was filled with disdain. All the powerhouses of the Sanctuary Alliance were worried about the Star Palace Master. However, the Abysmal Palace did not care at all as they had the Abysmal Saint Master backing them. Even if the Star Palace Master were still alive, they would dare to fight their way in right away. Among those scouts, there should be someone from the lineage of Star, right? My Abysmal Palace has done things this time around in a way that attracts a lot of attention. Hence, the lineage of Star has definitely gotten the news a long time ago. After knowing that my Abysmal Palace is coming, the people in the lineage of Star are probably so shocked that they are trembling in fear, the arrogant youth sneered. Don't underestimate the lineage of Star, especially that Sword Emperor. After all, back then, he killed the 13 Almighties including the Fortress Master Hong Tian in the Deluge Fortress with violent techniques, the green-clothed young lady said. He only managed to destroy the Deluge Fortress due to the presence of Emperor God Lu Guang. As for Sword Emperor's own abilities, he is merely a peak Emperor God. This time around, when my Abysmal Palace has come personally, who would dare to help him to go against my Abysmal Palace? Moreover, even if he were to invite Emperor God Lu Guang over again, it would be fine. With Palace Master here, what is a mere Emperor God Lu Guang considered to him? The arrogant youth snorted coldly. You're right, the green-clothed young lady nodded her head as well. Their eyes then happened to look in the direction of Palace Master Wu Luo at the same time, and their eyes were filled with respect. Just then, an ancient silver spaceship came from the void in front, and the large number of Almighties in the Abysmal Palace realized it at once. This is Sword Emperor's spaceship? The Almighties in the Abysmal Palace were stunned. They had planned to fight their way into the base of the lineage of Star. However, who could have expected that before they could reach the base of the lineage of Star, the lineage of Star would actually take the initiative to come out? The lineage of Star's people are really extremely stupid. Even though they knew that we were coming, they did not stay in their base obediently and stop us with all their might with the aid of the Great Formation. Instead, they took the initiative to come out? Are they sending themselves to death? The arrogant youth was the first person to laugh loudly. The lineage of Star is not this stupid, right? Could it be that they wish to negotiate or lower their heads to the Abysmal Palace? Negotiate? Lower their heads? That is highly possible. Let's go and take a look. Many experts of the Abysmal Palace wore a smile and walked out of the cabin. In the vast void, the two spaceships had stopped moving and they confronted each other with a huge distance in between them. The large number of experts of the Abysmal Palace had already come out from the spaceship and appeared at the void. As for the lineage of Star, only Hall Master Gu Xian showed herself. I am Gu Xian from the lineage of Star. Greetings to Palace Master Wu Luo, as well as everyone else from the Abysmal Palace. Hall Master Gu Xian had a modest expression. However, her words and behavior did not contain any form of fear. May I know why all of you have come on my lineage of stars so abruptly? Why have we come? The large number of experts from the Abysmal Palace laughed secretly. It was obvious that Hall Master Gu Xian asked the question even though she already knew the answer. Chapter 1858 Funny Excuse. Sir God Gu Xian. There was a cold voice. Among the experts of Abysmal Palace, Palace Master Wu Luo in green robe took a stride forward and his sharp gaze with boundless dignity fixed upon Hall Master Gu Xian. I came here today for one person only, and he is Jian Wushuang. The feud between him and Abysmal Palace is deep-seated. Abysmal Palace has to kill him. As long as Lineage of Star hands him over, I will immediately leave. Hall Master Gu Xin's face changed when he heard that. He replied, I wonder when did Hall Master Wushuang offend Abysmal Palace? Not too long ago, he killed Emperor God Fan Yuan, and Emperor God Fan Yuan is a man under Abysmal Palace. Palace Master Wu Luo replied coldly. What? Hall Master Gu Xian stunned. Jian Wushuang, who was in the silver spaceship, heard, and he couldn't help but laugh. Palace Master Wu Luo is so shameless. He uses such a funny excuse. It was no doubt an excuse. Emperor God Fan Yuan had been killed when Jian Wushuang had killed Emperor God Jin Ming, who shared great resentment with Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang was sure that Emperor God Fan Yuan was a solo expert and he wasn't related to Abysmal Palace at all. It was impossible that he was Abysmal Palace's man. After all, if Emperor God Fan Yuan was Abysmal Palace's man, he definitely would have brought up Abysmal Palace when his life was threatened. But he didn't. It was obvious that Emperor God Fan Yuan was merely an excuse that Abysmal Palace had found. Emperor God Fan Yuan had already died anyway, and the dead couldn't bear witness. Abysmal Palace could say whatever they want. Palace Master Wu Luo, Emperor God Fan Yuan was really killed by Hall Master Wushuang. However, how could Emperor God Fan Yuan be Abysmal Palace's man? Hall Master Gu Xian questioned instantly. Humph, he is if I say he is. Stop this nonsense. Either Lineage of Star hands over Jian Wushuang or Abysmal Palace will barge in to destroy Lineage of Star. It's your choice. Palace Master Wu Luo's cold voice reverberated in the sky. However, just as he spoke. I originally thought Soaring Heaven King Palace was barbaric enough. But it seems now that Abysmal Palace is even better at it compared to Soaring Heaven King Palace. His laughter shook the sky and rang across the universe. As the laughter rang across the universe, Jian Wushuang, who was on the silver spaceship, got out slowly with an icy look. The moment he appeared, his eyes shot at everyone from Abysmal Palace like lightning. At the same time, his voice with boundless chilliness was heard. Abysmal Palace, right? Let's just say Emperor God Fan Yuan was Abysmal Palace's man. So what? Jian Wushuang, already killed him. What can you do about it? As his voice reverberated, not only the people from Abysmal Palace could hear it clearly, the spies who were hidden in the dark sent by all forces, including a few almighties, could hear them clearly. In an instant, it stirred a commotion in the universe. You have guts. An idiot that doesn't know the immensity of the universe. No wonder so many people want to kill him. The experts from Abysmal Palace were furious. Palace Master Wu Luo stiffened and he stared at Jian Wushuang when he roared, As you're courting death, I will fulfill your wish. They didn't bullshit anymore. The moment Palace Wu Luo's voice stopped, the 18 almighties from Abysmal Palace instantly pounded. Punk, 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 punk. 18 fierce auras spread and pressed forward wantonly. Especially the three leading figures, the three emperor gods were soaring with killing intention. They were all aiming at Jian Wushuang in the void in front of them. Swoosh, swoosh. The two figures appeared behind Jian Wushuang at the same time. Looking at everyone from Abysmal Palace, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nyain looked solemn. Both of you be careful, Jian Wushuang glanced at the two people behind him. Don't worry, we will, Hall Master Gu Xen nodded heavily. Jian Wushuang didn't speak anymore but waved, and there were instantly 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers that appeared in front of them. The 4 Dao soldiers looked cold and expressionless. There was a chilly gleam in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Die! There was a low bellow, and Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Gu Xen, Hall Master Nye Yun, and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers charged forward. Jian Wushuang would naturally bear the brunt of the battle right at the front. The 2 team formations were obviously out of proportion. Suddenly, they were going to fight head-on. Dan Tu, Luo Xian, the 2 of you team up with me and we shall kill Jian Wushuang first. The rest of you, kill the 2 Sir Gods from Lineage of Star and destroy the 4 Dao soldiers. If you can't destroy the 4 Dao soldiers, just keep them stranded for the time being. When we kill Jian Wushuang and the others, we will figure out a way to take control of them. They will be extremely useful to Abysmal Palace in the future, Palace Master Wu Luo commanded. Yes, the Almighties behind him nodded simultaneously. The proud and aloof Emperor God Dan Tu and the green-robed maiden, Emperor God Luo Xian, followed behind Palace Master Wu Luo. Suddenly, both parties were fighting together. Die! Palace Master Wu Luo's aura increased tremendously, and there was a flame soaring from his body as though he was covered in a layer of flame armor. His body grew to 5 meters tall, and he was holding hundreds of millions of Jin hammer with both his hands. The hammer was slammed in the direction of Jian Wushuang. The void wasn't broken, but there were shapeless waves that rippled as though it had hit the surface of the water. However, the ripples contained terrifying power that could injure a Sir God badly. Then, there were more than hundreds of ripples that spread. Humph! Jian Wushuang shrumphed coldly, and Blood Mountain Sword was drawn from its scabbard instantly. Reincarnation Sword Principle, the 4th move. The sword was drawn and wielded. It was completed in an instant. The stroke contained boundless reincarnation power. The reincarnation power was based on Jian Wushuang's comprehension towards reincarnation doctrine, and he had already reached the peak of the 7th level in Doctrine Palace. Besides, most importantly, the stroke contained Jian Wushuang's terrifying strength. Divine power of a 3rd stage ultimate real god and bloodline power of a 7-star ancient tribe expert. The combination of 2 brought about the strength that was double the power of an emperor god. The terrifying stroke whistled as it slashed. Instantly, most of the ripples that spread were broken while the sword light continued to sweep out. In the end, it shattered more than 100 ripples. "You're quite powerful," Palace Master Wu Luo was shocked. Then, the 2 ghostly figures appeared next to Jian Wushuang at the same time. Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian. The 2 Emperor Gods weren't weak in ranking on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. Emperor God Dan Tu was even extremely close to peak Emperor God. Then, the 2 Emperor Gods let their fighting power explode as they went all out. Chapter 1859, Using Your Blood to Warn the World. Jian Wushuang die. Emperor God Dan Tu's face was hideous, and his eyes were filled with an infinite amount of murderous intent. Emperor God Dan Tu was a super genius. Be it when he was a universe god or when he was a real god, he was praised as the number 1 in his realm. At that moment, he had become an almighty and entered the realm of emperor gods. However, this was not his limit. He still had great potential, and he could absolutely become a peak emperor god in the future. Moreover, it was possible for him to rival or even surpass Palace Master Wu Luo. As such, this caused him to feel extremely proud. However, when he knew of Jian Wushuang's existence as well as his accomplishments, he could no longer remain calm. Jian Wushuang's brilliant accomplishments, where he possessed the fighting capabilities of a peak emperor god even though he was a real god, had caused Emperor God Dan Tu to lose his arrogance. Quite a number of people had once compared him to Jian Wushuang. However, in the end, Emperor God Dan Tu was not even considered a genius in front of Jian Wushuang. This had caused Emperor God Dan Tu to be filled with hatred since a long time ago. At that moment, since he had the opportunity to kill Jian Wushuang, he naturally went all out. Swish! A saber light headed toward Jian Wushuang's head, and it was filled with a tremendous amount of hatred. On the other side, Emperor God Luo Xian went all out. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. Boom! A frightening aura of a bloodline burst forth completely and Jian Wushuang's body expanded abruptly. It was not until he had become 100 feet tall that he stopped expanding. The skin of him then had completely changed to black jade and his body surface wore red armor. Moreover, many heads and arms appeared from his body and he had a total of 7 heads as well as 14 arms. This caused him to look unusually hideous and frightening, as if he were an unmatched demon god. For his 14 arms, each of them held a sword and at that moment, the swords were swung out fiercely. Clang, 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 clang. Violent clashing sounds could be heard continuously and every clash was earth-shaking. He had completely unleashed his close-quarter combat abilities and, combined with his own extremely unreasonable power and sword principles, he fought an intense battle with Dan Tu and Luo Xian, the 2 emperor gods, at the same time. In the end, he still had the upper hand and the 2 emperor gods were suppressed to the point that they retreated again and again. Fortunately, Palace Master Wu Luo hurried over in time. Boom! A powerful blow from a hammer descended and it tore open the space, generating a great amount of pressure. This caused Jian Wushuang's expression to turn grave and among his 14 arms, a total of 8 of them held swords to block the attack. Bang! With a loud sound, Jian Wushuang's body was sent flying toward the bottom. Die! The killing moves of the 2 emperor gods, Dan Tu and Luo Xian, who were by the side, were unleashed and Jian Wushuang swung the swords in his 6 remaining arms with his full power to block their attacks. However, the unreasonable power sent Jian Wushuang flying, just like before. Hall Master Gu Xan, Hall Master Shi Yun, retreat. While he was sent flying, Jian Wushuang still shouted. Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Shi Yun had teamed up with 4 Dao soldiers to fight an intense battle with the 15 Sir Gods of the Abysmal Palace head-on. As it was 6 against 15, no matter how powerful the abilities of the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers, as well as of the 2 Hall Masters, they were still suppressed. However, fortunately, there were no casualties. After hearing Jian Wushuang's words, the 2 Hall Masters as well as the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers retreated right away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Although Jian Wushuang's body had already retreated from the battlefield, he did not escape. Instead, he stopped at a void that was far away. Hall Master Gu Xan, Hall Master Shi Yun and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers returned to him in no time. In front of them, the 18 experts of the Abysmal Palace gathered together again. This great battle had actually stopped temporarily. However, it had not come to an end yet. Gu Xian and Shi Yun, how do both of you feel? Jian Wushuang glanced at the 2 Hall Masters behind him. I am still all right. Hall Master Gu Xin's voice was dull. It has been a long time since I fought such an intense battle. Hall Master Shi Yun was extremely cold and stern. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang laughed. Our warm-up has come to an end. Next, it's time for our massacre. Massacre. The eyes of Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun glowed brilliantly. Kill all of them. Let them know the consequences of provoking the lineage of Star. Kill, kill, kill. The 2 Hall Masters were filled with murderous intent. At the void in front, the 18 experts of the Abysmal Palace had already started to close in on them and Palace Master Wu Luo shouted with an ice-cold voice. Jian Wushuang, you already have no way out. With the Abysmal Palace taking action, it is impossible for you to escape. Moreover, even if you are lucky enough to escape, the lineage of Star will definitely suffer. But what about the Star Palace Master? Even in such a situation, he is still unwilling to show himself. Seems like he is really dead? When the scouts who hid at the void nearby and came from all the powerhouses heard those words, their hearts moved. Indeed, the lineage of Star was engaged in a close-quarters battle with the Abysmal Palace head-on. However, there was still no news from the Star Palace Master. Hence, this had confirmed the predictions of the Vientiane Tower from before. However, when Jian Wushuang heard those words, he laughed without any restraint at all and his laughter resounded across the universe. What a joke! You really wish to get our palace master to show himself to pieces of trash like all of you? This is really a big joke. Today, There happened to be people from each and every powerhouse of the Sanctuary Alliance present. Hence, I will use the blood of the large number of experts of your abysmal palace to tell the world the consequences of provoking the lineage of Star. At the same time that his voice reverberated across the area, Jian Wushuang took out the One Realm Pearl with a flip of his hands. Purple energy burst forth and completely covered millions of miles of void instantly. One Realm Pearl, great formation formed. Upon seeing such a scene, the eyes of the large number of experts of the Abysmal Palace turned grave. They were not unfamiliar with such a scene. They knew that the reason why Jian Wushuang was able to destroy the Deluge Fortress completely and kill Fortress Master Hong Tian on the spot was because of the peculiar pearl that he possessed. With a thought, the pearl would create a formation and it would make it absolutely impossible for Fortress Master Hong Tian to escape. As such, he could only fight like a cornered beast. At that moment, Jian Wushuang unleashed the same move as well. However, what they did not understand was that since there was such a great disparity between their abilities and lineup, what was Jian Wushuang trying to achieve by deploying the Great Formation? Could it be? When they had just thought of that, Jian Wushuang waved his hands abruptly and bronze figures appeared in front of them out of thin air instantly. For these bronze figures, all their bodies were extremely huge. Moreover, be it their physiques or their looks, they were exactly the same as the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers that they had just fought. However, the only difference was that these bronze figures wore bronze armor. Dao soldiers? Bronze-armored Dao soldiers? The experts of the Abysmal Palace were all stunned. They knew about the Dao soldiers. Of course, they knew the differences between a bronze-armored Dao soldier and a silver-armored Dao soldier. Logically, the level of threat of the bronze-armored Dao soldiers was far from being comparable to that of the silver-armored Dao soldiers. However, at that moment, when they saw the bronze-armored Dao soldiers, which had appeared before them, the expressions of all the experts of the Abysmal Palace turned extremely ugly. There was no choice as there were far too many bronze-armored Dao soldiers in front of them. There were so many of them. Looking at it, there was actually a total of 30 of them. Chapter 1860, Level 8. Most of the experts at the scene knew about Dao soldiers. In ancient Mystery Land, there were some places with Dao soldiers. Although the Dao soldiers were strong in power and not much weaker than an Almighty, they only knew simple attacks. Hence, to the Almighties at the scene, they weren't much of a threat. However, that was when there were very few Dao soldiers. Now there was a total of 30 Dao soldiers. Even if 3 teamed up could only match evenly with a Sir God, they had the fighting power of 10 Sir Gods. In addition to the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers, Hall Master Gu Exen and Hall Master Nye Yun, lineage of Star's fighting power at Sir God level weren't much weaker than Abysmal Palace. In actual fact, Jian Wushuang had a total of 100 bronze-armored Dao soldiers, but he only took out 30 of them. If he were to take out all of his bronze-armored Dao soldiers, the experts from Abysmal Palace would show even more interesting expressions. Jian Wushuang, is this the final trick that lineage of Star has? Palace Master Wu Luo's gaze was cold as he stared at the 30 bronze-armored Dao soldiers, but there wasn't much changed on his face. It was only 30 bronze-armored Dao soldiers, and it was still within the range of Abysmal Palace's power. Final trick? Of course not. Jian Wushuang lifted the corners of his lips, and with his willpower, the 3 Hongjun golden swords suddenly appeared simultaneously and floated before him. Palace Master Wu Luo, you should know that I am the best at the 3 golden swords. Today, I shall let them greet you. The 3 golden swords? That's funny. Palace Master Wu Luo smiled in disdain. He had watched the mirror image that showed Jian Wushuang's fight with Fortress Master Hong Tian and the others in Deluge Fortress personally. In that fight, Jian Wushuang's 3 Hongjun golden swords were really eye-catching. Any one of them contained a hit of a peak Emperor God, and it was terrifying fast speed. When they exploded in full force, they posed a great threat to an ordinary peak Emperor God. However, he wasn't worried about the 3 golden swords at all. You'll know when you try. Jian Wushuang smiled maliciously, and there was a boundless space-time power that suddenly swept out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The three golden swords that floated in silence were affected by the space-time power. They quivered and shot out ferociously. They appeared in front of Palace Master Wuluo like three bolts of lightning, and they shot Palace Master Wuluo's chest one after another. Palace Master Wuluo, who looked disdainful earlier, his eyes suddenly dilated in shock. This speed! Palace Master Wuluo was shocked because the three golden lights were too fast. The speed that it displayed was much faster than back then when Jian Wushuang had used it during the fight in Deluge Fortress. With such terrifying speed, even Palace Master Wuluo was surprised. However, Palace Master Wuluo, who was on the 25th place on Heaven and Earth's Supreme ranking list, was also quiet in response. Just as the three golden lights burst out, he swung the hammer in his hands. The swing was as though it could break the sky directly. It contained terrifying power that could make all Emperor gods feel hopeless. Bang, bang, bang. 3 continuous hits and Palace Master Wuluo fell back for tens of thousands of miles. He could also feel that his hands were numb. Level 8. Palace Master Wuluo stared at Jian Wushuang. He could feel the space-time power that was given out from the 3 golden swords, and the space-time power was terrifying. Only when one's comprehension towards space-time doctrine reached the 8th level could give play to such power. Jian Wushuang, a real god, his comprehension of space-time doctrine had already reached the level 8 in Doctrine Palace? Level 8? How is it possible? Many experts from Abysmal Palace couldn't help but exclaim. Level 8 in Doctrine Palace was the comprehension standard of an ordinary emperor god. One should know that when Jian Wushuang performed the 3 golden swords during the battle in Deluge Fortress, his comprehension of space-time doctrine was only at the 7th level in Doctrine Palace, and it wasn't even at the peak of the 7th level. However, with this fierce power and ferocity of Hongjun Golden Sword, he could match evenly with a peak emperor god. Then, it had only been over 2,000 years since the fight, but Jian Wushuang's comprehension of space-time doctrine had heightened so massively. Impossible! No matter how talented he is, no matter how ridiculously strong he was, without the assistance of opportunities, it is impossible that his comprehension towards space-time doctrine could improve so tremendously in 2,000 years. Unless he has been hiding his true power since the beginning. Palace Master Wuluo stared, and his voice became extremely cold. Jian Wushuang, you have been hiding? You only found out now? Jian Wushuang smirked coldly. Just as Palace Master Wuluo had said, without the assistance of opportunities but merely relied on his personal comprehension, he wouldn't achieve such massive improvement in comprehension towards space-time doctrine in 2,000 years' time. The reason why the power he had displayed then was different from the fight with Deluge Fortress before was that Jian Wushuang had never revealed his true power. In the 6,000 years he had wandered in the ancient battlefield near Greenfire World, he had received many opportunities. Among them, the biggest opportunity was a miniature cave dwelling. He had comprehended in the miniature cave dwelling for 1,200 years. His comprehension of space-time doctrine had improved at an unprecedented rate. His comprehension was originally at the peak of level 6 in Doctrine Palace. However, after he had comprehended in the miniature cave dwelling, not only did his comprehension of space-time doctrine break through to the level 7 in Doctrine Palace, he continued to improve and possess the power to the level 8 in Doctrine Palace. Level 8 was the comprehension standard of an ordinary emperor god. On top of that, his power and strength were twice as strong as emperor god, the Hongjun Golden Swords were scary, and also Jian Wushuang's fighting power, he was far beyond anyone's imagination. Palace Master Wuluo, you should be glad that you are the first who gets to see my peak fighting power all these years. Today, I'll use the blood of the experts from Abysmal Palace to serve as a deterrent to everyone. Jian Wushuang's voice reverberated in the universe slowly. Arrogant. Palace Master Wuluo humphed coldly. If I am arrogant or not, you shall watch. Jian Wushuang spoke coldly, and a bolt of space-time power swept out. The 3 Hongjun Golden Sword instantly turned into golden lightning. Then, the 3 Hongjun Golden Swords attacked Palace Master Wuluo, Emperor God Dan Tu, and Emperor God Luoxian respectively from all 3 different directions. It exploded its top speed. Then Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian stared. H*T. Palace Master Wu Luo's face grew grave. Although Jian Wushuang's power was far stronger than they had imagined, he was confident that he could match with him and he could withstand the 3 golden swords. He could withstand, but it didn't mean that Emperor God Dan Tua and Emperor God Luo Xian could. Chapter 1861. Jian Wushuang, Greatest Fighting Capabilities. The 3 Hongjun golden swords were like 3 written Taoist voodoos, and among them, 2 of them headed toward Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian respectively. It's too fast, Emperor God Luo Xian could not help but murmur. Emperor God Dan Tu's expression was ghastly pale. However, as Emperor Gods, they could not go down without a fight. Hence, they unleashed their techniques to block the attack right away. Clang, clang. 2 heavy clashing sounds could be heard at the same time. The moment Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xiao clashed with the Hongjun golden swords, they were sent flying. However, while they were still flying and that they had not fully regained their posture yet, the 2 Hongjun golden swords shook slightly and attacked again. Oh no! We are in huge trouble. Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian had an extremely shocked expression. Although the attack force of the Hongjun golden swords had risen slightly compared to before, it did not rise by too much and it was still within the acceptable range for the both of them. However, in terms of speed, back then, Jian Wushuang had merely unleashed his comprehension of the space-time doctrine, which was at the 7th level of the Doctrine Palace. Even then, the speed that he had unleashed had already caused them to be extremely frightened. At that moment, it was the 8th level. His speed had completely exceeded the acceptable range for both of them. While the 2 of them were sent flying, they did their best to block the attack. However, there were sounds of clang, clang, clang. Multiple clashing sounds could be heard in succession, and every clash caused both their hearts and minds to feel heavy. After clashing many times, the hands of the both of them felt numb. However, the 2 Hongjun golden swords were still not affected in the slightest bit. Instead, they had already changed into brilliant rays of golden light and appeared in front of both of them. Moreover, they headed for both of their heads right away. Their speed was too fast and they were unable to dodge them in time. However, just then, boom, boom, the space broke open and 2 big hammers were swung out of it at the same time. They then sent the 2 Hongjun golden swords flying and got rid of the danger that Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian was in. Palace Master. Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian were looking at Palace Master Wu Luo, who had appeared in front of them, with delight. Both of you, please retreat to one side first, Palace Master Wu Luo said. After hearing what was said, Emperor God Luo Xian did not hesitate at all and his figure retreated far away at once. As for Emperor God Dan Tu, he had a ghastly pale expression and he was staring at Jian Wushuang with full of dissatisfaction. Before he had fought with Jian Wushuang, he had still doubted Jian Wushuang. He had thought that he might not be inferior to Jian Wushuang. However, when they had fought for real, especially when Jian Wushuang had gone all out, he realized that although he was an emperor god, he still did not have the right to participate in the battle. That's right. He had no right to participate. If he were to force himself to participate of his own accord, not only would he be unable to help Palace Master Wu Luo, he would become a burden to Palace Master Wu Luo. Dan Tu, please retreat first, Emperor God Luo Xian said. Emperor God Dan Tu gave a cold snort and he retreated while suppressing the dissatisfaction in his heart forcefully. Moreover, in no time, along with Emperor God Luo Xian, he joined the intense battle by the side. As for this piece of void, only Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Wu Luo remained. Palace Master Wu Luo, do you think that you will be able to handle me alone? Jian Wushuang laughed. With a thought, the 3 Hongjun golden swords changed magically at the same time. Swish, swish, swish. The 3 rays of golden light moved again and headed for Palace Master Wu Luo. Palace Master Wu Luo had a cold and stern expression. On his body, a great amount of dim light emerged and it was just like a demon cloud. Although he did not utter a single word, another giant hammer appeared in his other palm. This giant hammer had a powerful aura, and it was actually a chaos divine treasure as well. Die! The demon clouds rolled about, and Palace Master Wu Luo transformed into a ferocious beast from the ancient past instantly. He then attacked right away with frightening murderous intent. At that moment, his aura rose to its maximum abruptly. A powerful pressure was exerted on Jian Wushuang, and this pressure was slightly more powerful than before. He swung the two big hammers in his hands at the same time, and the hammers were swung repeatedly, as if they were two lofty mountains that were extremely heavy. The most important thing was that not only were the two hammers extremely powerful, their speed was so fast that it was shocking. With the two hammers attacking madly, they actually managed to barely block Jian Wushuang's 3 Hongjun golden swords, which were attacking continuously. Oh! Jian Wushuang looked at the scene in front of him with surprise. He had not expected Palace Master Wu Luo to actually be able to stop his 3 golden swords. As expected of Palace Master Wu Luo, who is ranked 25 in the Heaven and Earth ranking list. What you are unleashing now is probably your strongest fighting capabilities, and they are indeed impressive, Jian Wushuang said loudly. Jian Wushuang, I admit that you are indeed very powerful. However, you are still not good enough to defeat me, Palace Master Wu Luo snorted coldly. Is that so? Jian Wushuang did a strange laugh. After that, with a thought, another ray of golden light rose again. Upon seeing the ray of golden light, Palace Master Wu Luo's expression finally changed. The fourth one? Palace Master Wu Luo was completely stunned. As for Jian Wushuang, he sneered, you are barely able to block the attacks of 3 golden swords. But what if you were to encounter a fourth one? As soon as his words left his mouth, the 4th Hongjun golden sword which had risen shook slightly. After that, it pierced the void instantly. As for its speed, it was not slower than the 3 swords from before in the slightest. Moreover, it contained the same amount of power. Boom, 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 boom. 4 Hongjun golden swords swept past the void and generated ear-piercing sounds. The sounds were terrifying, and the Hongjun golden swords headed to Palace Master Wu Luo again and again. Each Hongjun golden sword possessed the power of a peak emperor god, which was more than enough to kill a Sir God easily. At that moment, 4 of them had teamed up, even though it was Palace Master Wu Luo. At that moment, he was under a great amount of pressure that he had never felt before. He could only grit his teeth tightly and do his best to block the attacks. On the other side, Hall Master Gu Xen, Hall Master Shi Yun, the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers, as well as the 30 bronze-armored Dao soldiers, were fighting an intense battle with the large number of experts from the Abysmal Palace. Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian had entered the battlefield. However, the 2 of them were stopped by 2 silver-armored Dao soldiers each right away. Although the fighting capabilities of a silver-armored Dao soldier were slightly inferior to that of an Emperor God, with 2 of them teaming up, they could still deal with an Emperor God with some difficulty. Moreover, the Dao soldiers' abilities to protect themselves were so strong that it was shocking. Hence, it was absolutely impossible for Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian to destroy them even if they wanted to do. Even with the fighting capabilities of Emperor Gods, they had still come to a deadlock temporarily, and they were unable to get away for a period of time. As for the 2 groups of Sir Gods, they were having an intense fight. In this battle, the performance of Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun was unusually dazzling. Boom, boom. Unreasonable power burst forth at once. Be careful. Be careful of Hall Master Gu Xian. Chaos Divine Treasure. It's actually a Chaos Divine Treasure. Moreover, it is extremely powerful. Damn it. At that moment, the 15 Almighties from the Abysmal Palace had extremely ugly expressions. Previously, when Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun had fought with them as a warm-up, the divine weapons that they had used were merely chaos unique treasures. However, at that moment, the hands of Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun were holding on to chaos divine treasures which were so powerful that it was shocking. Chapter 1862 Suppress. How is it possible? Abysmal Palace has a stronger foundation than Lineage of Star, and we Sir Gods never once possess chaotic divine treasure. What did Lineage of Star do to deserve this? Their two Sir Gods have chaotic divine treasures? The experts from Abysmal Palace couldn't help but exclaim. One should know that chaotic divine treasure was extremely rare in Eternal Chaotic World. If an ordinary Emperor God didn't have any background or opportunity, he wouldn't get chaotic divine treasure, let alone a Sir God. In Eternal Chaotic World, Sir Gods who had chaotic divine treasures could be counted on one's fingers. Either these people were lucky or they had powerful background. However, the two Sir Gods from Lineage of Star had chaotic divine treasures. Since when did Lineage of Star become so wealthy? With the addition of chaotic divine treasures, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nyain, who were originally powerful, especially Hall Master Gu Xian, who was a peak Sir God. When they attacked with 30 bronze-armored Dao soldiers, they could suppress the 15 Sir Gods from Abysmal Palace. This feels great. Let's continue. Hall Master Nyayun was extremely excited. He carried a grey rod, and the grey rod gave out an ancient yet vast aura. Because of the grey rod, his overall power increased by 1 notch. Even if he were to fight with an Emperor God Sir God, he wouldn't be fearful. From the bottom of their hearts, Hall Master Nyayun was grateful for Jian Wushuang. After all, the grey rod in his hand and the chaotic divine treasure that Hall Master Gu Xian was using were both from Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had obtained many chaotic divine treasures from the ancient battlefield. He told Hall Master Yuan to rope in some experts with the chaotic divine treasures. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nyayun were his people. Jian Wushuang, of course, wouldn't be stingy, but gave them the most suitable chaotic divine treasures. In the fight, the two of them gave play to their full fighting power. In the 3 battlefields, Lineage of Star had the upper hand in 2. The other one was in a stalemate. Overall, Lineage of Star already had the absolute upper hand. Just then, pissed? A head flew off directly when the eyes in the head were wide in disbelief. The scene struck fear into many experts from Abysmal Palace. Sir God Yu Xian. Be *starred. Be careful. The experts from Abysmal Palace were terrified and furious. Gu Xian, well done. Hall Master Nyayun was filled with excitement. The fight had been going on for quite a while, and finally, there was an expert who died. The person was from Abysmal Palace. At first, Abysmal Palace had had the lower hand. Then, there was a Sir God from their side who had been killed. Hence, they were in an even worse situation. But as the first expert died, the second and the third were definitely not far away. The massacre continued. After Sir God Yu Xian was killed by Hall Master Gu Xian, the second Sir God was killed very soon. He was killed by Hall Master Nyayun and 2 bronze-armored Dao soldiers. Then there was the third one. The remaining experts from Abysmal Palace couldn't stay calm anymore. Everyone looked at Palace Master Wu Luo, expecting to see Palace Master Wu Luo to turn the table around. However, when they saw Palace Master Wu Luo's situation, the experts from Abysmal Palace were dumbfounded. Palace Master Wu Luo had already lost his aloof carriage and appearance of a sect master. On the contrary, his body was unusually in a fix and his face was pale. Although he wielded the 2 hammers with his awl, he was suppressed by the besiegement of 4 Hongjun golden sword. How could it be? The experts from Abysmal Palace found it unbelievable. One should know that Palace Master Wu Luo's position in Abysmal Palace was only second to Abysmal Saint Master. He was an absolute super expert on the 25th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, such a super expert was completely suppressed when he fought head-on with Jian Wushuang. ***. Palace Master Wu Luo already noticed the surrounding battlefields. He saw that 3 Sir Gods from Abysmal Palace had died one after another. His face grew grave and he felt aggrieved. He felt really aggrieved. He was a peak Emperor God, but he was suppressed by Jian Wushuang. If it were to spread, it would become a joke. Dan 2, Luo Xian, the 2 of you hurry up and rush over to the other battlefield, Palace Master roared. Emperor God Dan 2 and Emperor God Luo Xian were looked cold. They wanted to shake off the silver-armored Dao soldiers long ago. However, even though the two silver-armored Dao soldiers weren't powerful, they kept pestering them and didn't give them any chance to be free from them. Most importantly, the two silver-armored Dao soldiers were two obstacles that wouldn't break nor shatter. They couldn't do anything about the Dao soldiers. The two of them felt helpless when they heard Palace Master Wu Luo. Palace Master Wu Luo. Jian Wushuang smirked coldly and looked at Palace Master Wu Luo. At this moment, you still have the gall to bother with the others. You'd better plan for yourself. Jian Wushuang said, and there was suddenly a billowing divine power that swept out. Not only divine power but also ferocious bloodline power. They concentrated to a brand new level. Jian Wushuang stared at Palace Master Wu Luo as his gaze turned cold. Moon-picking skill. Virum. Divine power and bloodline power exploded entirely. At the same time, the boundless space-time power swept out too. The strongest secret skill of Ancient God, moon-picking skill, relied on space-time power as well. The higher his comprehension of space-time doctrine, the fiercer the secret skill when he performed it. Then, Jian Wushuang was performing the secret skill with his all. The void suddenly shook vigorously. Palace Master Wu Luo was originally in a fix because of the pressure from Hongjun Golden Sword. Then, he suddenly felt the surrounding universe and the space-time pressing down at him in madness. The pressure shook heaven and earth. In an instant, his movements were severely hindered. Ancient God's moon-picking skill? Palace Master's eyes dilated and he recognized the skill. He immediately harumphed coldly and a huge space-time whirlpool swept out. The space-time whirlpool swallowed everything in the surrounding and wanted to swallow the entire space-time and the entire universe. With such devouring power, it reduced the effect of the surrounding universe and space-time towards him, but his speed was still diminishing drastically. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The four golden lights burst out one after another. Palace Master Wu Luo blocked with his all. However, he only managed to block 3 of them under the pressure of the universe and space-time. The remaining one hit his body without any hindrance. Chapter 1863 Completely Defeated. Bam! A heavy clashing sound could be heard and Palace Master Wu Luo was sent flying immediately. It was only after flying for tens of thousands of miles that his body stopped moving. At that moment, his expression became even more ghastly pale and some blood flowed out from the corners of his mouth. It was obvious that the attack moments ago had caused him to be injured. Not bad. Not only do you have a defense armor that is of the level of a Chaos Divine Treasure, your secret skill to defend yourself is extremely powerful. Even with an attack from my Hongjun Golden Sword at its full power, you merely got away with light injuries. Jian Wushuang stared at Palace Master Wu Luo. After that, he gave a strange laugh. However, if you were to take the attack a few more times, even though you had a Chaos Divine Treasure level defense armor, you might still be unable to withstand all of them, right? As soon as his words left his mouth, unreasonable divine power and bloodline power were unleashed from Jian Wushuang's body again. Again! Palace Master Wu Luo's expression changed greatly. As Jian Wushuang had said, if it were just one attack, he could still withstand it and he would not suffer heavy injuries. However, if such an attack were to come a few more times, then it would be a completely different story. Buzz! The void shook again. After that, the whole universe and space-time headed toward Palace Master Wu Luo again. 4 Hongjun Golden Swords were shot out again as well. A similar scene appeared again. This time around, under the attack of the Hongjun Golden Swords, Palace Master Wu Luo could not help but give a groan. However, the moment he regained his posture, Jian Wushuang took action again and it was still the same move. How is this possible? Palace Master Wu Luo was completely dumbfounded. He had a good understanding of the Ancient God clan's moon-picking skill. This move was the strongest secret skill of the Ancient God clan. However, it was not easy to use it as it would deplete one's divine power and bloodline power greatly. For a normal Ancient God, unleashing the moon-picking skill once or twice in one intense battle would cause him to reach his limit and it was impossible for him to unleash it a 3rd time. However, what about Jian Wushuang? He had unleashed the moon-picking skill twice in succession. Despite that, he did not feel any pressure and he was still very relaxed. At that moment he had unleashed it a third time? His divine power and bloodline power was this vast? He did not know that Jian Wushuang was a stage 3 ultimate real god who possessed a total of 100 ultimate divine power water droplets. In addition, there was the king of venomous worms in his body who was helping him to recover with his full power. As such, he could be said to have an endless amount of divine power. As for bloodline power, he possessed the bloodline of ancient clan. As such, his level of bloodline was higher than that of the ancient god clan. Thus, it would be a lot easier for him to use the secret skills of the ancient god clan by using the bloodline of ancient clan compared to an ancient god. Hence, not to mention unleashing it 2 or 3 times, even if he were to unleash it tens of times in succession, he would still be able to bear it. Although he could bear it, Palace Master Wu Luo was unable to bear it. Monster, this Jian Wushuang is absolutely a genuine monster. No wonder even Saint Master is fearful of him, and he wanted to get rid of him in advance. I am actually fighting with a monster? Palace Master Wu Luo opened his eyes wide, and at the next moment, he made up his mind. Retreat! Everyone retreat quickly! Palace Master Wu Luo's cry reverberated across the whole battlefield, and he retreated to the back immediately. Upon seeing that, the eyes of the large number of experts from the Abysmal Palace shrank, and they were filled with dissatisfaction. It should be known that they were the Abysmal Palace. Among the large number of big powerhouses in the whole Sanctuary Alliance, they could be said to be the top 3. This time around, they had activated more than 80% of their fighting capabilities with Palace Master Wu Luo leading them personally to fight their way into the lineage of Star. In the end, they were actually defeated by the other party in front of the experts of each and every powerhouse in the Sanctuary Alliance. What a disgrace! This was absolutely a huge disgrace. The moment they retreated, they would definitely be reduced to an object of ridicule in the Sanctuary Alliance. However, even though they knew that this would be the case, they could only retreat. There was no longer any suspense in this battle. Even Palace Master Wu Luo had been defeated by Jian Wushuang head-on. Hence, what else could they do to turn the situation around? The large number of experts from the Abysmal Palace started to retreat at once. However, it was a pity that in such a situation, even if they wanted to retreat, they would still need to go through the lineage of Star first. Kill all of them. Hall Master Shi Yun was extremely excited and he gave chase right away without hesitation. Although Hall Master Gu Exen had never said anything, her eyes were glowing with coldness. Her speed was not slow in the slightest, and she continued to give chase. Similarly, the Dao soldiers gave chase as well. As for Jian Wushuang, who was at the very front, he was holding his sword in one hand and he was filled with murderous intent. As for the 4 brilliant rays of golden light in front of them, they had already attacked furiously with lightning speed. This very day was the day where the lineage of Star had showed everyone how powerful it was. He wanted to use this battle to completely frighten all the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance. At that moment, even though the Abysmal Palace had already started to retreat, an insufficient number of their experts had died and an insufficient amount of blood was shed. As such, this was far from achieving Jian Wushuang's requirements. Not enough. Not enough people have been killed. Jian Wushuang was glowing with a shrill light that was terrifying, and he was like a wild beast that was extremely furious. He was looking in front at the experts of the Abysmal Palace who were escaping madly. Among the 3 Emperor Gods, it is definitely impossible to kill Palace Master Wu Luo. As for the remaining Emperor God Dan Tu and Emperor God Luo Xian, I can kill both of them. As for my first target, it's him. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold and he locked on to one person tenaciously. That person was an arrogant youth, and he was Emperor God Dan Tuesday. At that moment, the experts of the Abysmal Palace had already arrived at the edge of the great formation that the One Realm Pearl had formed. Palace Master Wu Luo was at the front. After taking a look at the purple light membrane in front of him, his eyes glowed with a fierce light and he attacked with the 2 hammers in his hands right away. Boom! Boom! A heavy but ancient sound could be heard and the great formation started to shake crazily. Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. He could feel the great pressure that the One Realm Pearl was under. Palace Master Wu Luo's attack power was indeed frightening. If nothing were to go wrong, he would only need to attack the Great Formation with his full power 3 times in order to destroy it. At that moment, he had already attacked it once, and he still needed to attack it 2 more times. Before he destroys the Great Formation, we have to do our best to get the experts of the Abysmal Palace to remain here. Among those 2 Emperor Gods, at the very least, we must get one of them to remain. Kill! Jian Wushuang shouted, and he unleashed his moon-picking skill again. The void shook and the universe and space-time exerted a frightening amount of pressure on everyone from the Abysmal Palace instantly. Although its power was slightly dispersed, it was still alright as Jian Wushuang was so powerful. As such, most of the Sir Gods were suppressed and they were unable to move at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Hall Master Gu Xian, and the large number of Dao soldiers threw themselves over madly. Similarly, Jian Wushuang attacked and his eyes were completely locked onto Emperor God Dan Tu's. Not good. Emperor God Dan Tu's expression turned ghastly pale at once. Rumble. Frightening massacre burst forth again. Palace Master Wu Luo was unable to participate in the massacre immediately. After all, he needed to use his full power to destroy the Great Formation of the One Realm Pearl. Boom, boom. With 2 violent booming sounds again, the Great Formation of the One Realm Pearl was finally destroyed. Chapter 1864. Suffer a crushing hefty defeat. The formation broke. Hurry up and leave. Palace Master Wu Luo broke the formation and immediately shouted. However, when he turned around and saw everything that had happened behind his back, his face changed. No! There was a shrill scream that reverberated in his ears. Before Palace Master's gaze, Emperor God Dan Tu's face was red and the saber that was tightly gripped in his hand dropped. Then, there were 2 resplendent golden lights that shot at him. Emperor God Dan Tu looked hopeless. He didn't have any chaotic divine treasure-level defense armor like Palace Master Wu Luo. It was impossible for him to withstand Jian Wushuang's golden sword attack. Pissed. The 2 golden lights pierced Emperor Dan Tu's head almost instantly and his head was completely smashed. The super genius from Abysmal Palace died on the spot. D***. Palace Master Wu Luo was furious. He had never expected that in the short time that he was resolving the formation by One Pearl Realm wholeheartedly, Jian Wushuang would kill Emperor God Dan Tu with thunderous measures. Plus, not only Emperor God Dan Tu, but the other Sir God experts from Abysmal Palace were massacred mercilessly as well. They were in a wretched situation. When the formation by One Pearl Realm broke, the experts from Abysmal Palace were thrilled. They started fleeing without hesitation. Although Palace Master Wu Luo was furious, he didn't stay but ran away at the first instant. Without the hindrance of the formation by One Pearl Realm, Jian Wushuang couldn't make the experts from Abysmal Palace stay when they started running away. Very soon, the experts from Abysmal Palace had disappeared completely. In the void, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Gu Xian, Hall Master Nye Yun, the 3 of them stood at the far front while the Dao soldiers followed behind them. Watching the experts from Abysmal Palace running away, the 3 of their faces were cold. It's a pity that my One Realm Pearl, although it could become a formation with my will, the power of the formation is limited. Palace Master Wu Luo was powerful and he could break the formation with 3 full-force hits. If the formation could hold them back longer, the Almighties from Abysmal Palace might have been killed. Jian Wushuang was filled with murderous intention and there was a tinge of regret in his eyes. It's a pity. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun nodded simultaneously. The 3 of them exchanged a look and then smiled. Ha! Jian Wushuang laughed extremely wantonly. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun then laughed too. Although there were many experts from Abysmal Palace that had managed to escape, which they found regrettable, the result was that Abysmal Palace had suffered a crushing hefty defeat after all. Hefty defeat! It was absolutely no doubt a great defeat. During the fight, Lineage of Star had merely had a few of their bronze-armored Dao soldiers damaged. They only needed some resources to recover them. Other than that, they hadn't lost anything. Abysmal Palace had suffered a great loss. Abysmal Palace kept a high profile and came to Lineage of Star before the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance. In the end, they suffered a crushing defeat and lost many Almighties. If the news were to be spread, it would stir a great commotion, Hall Master Gu Xen said excitedly. It's okay to stir commotion. Most importantly, the fight serves as a deterrent to the others. There was a gleam in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Abysmal Palace sent 80% of their highest fighting power and suffered a crushing defeat. How many Abysmal Palaces does Sanctuary Alliance have? After this fight, the forces and sects would be even more fearful of Lineage of Star. Even if they found out that the Master of Star Palace passed away, they have to reconsider again and again before they do anything to Lineage of Star. Yes, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun nodded heavily. They walked out of Galaxy Universe and took on their enemy in order to intimidate all forces with the fight. They were very satisfied with the result. Come on, let's return. Jian Wushuang waved to put the Dao soldiers away. Then, Jian Wushuang and the two Hall Masters brought the exciting result back to Lineage of Star. In the void, far away from the battlefield earlier. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A few figures stopped in the void. The experts from Abysmal Palace who strutted about and gave themselves airs when they barged into Lineage of Star. They were daring and energetic. But then everyone, including Palace Master Wu Luo, was in a fix. They were like stray dogs. Especially many Sir Gods looked terrified and frightened. These Sir Gods were normally high and mighty. Although they had once faced life and death danger when they wandered outside, it hardly happened. That day, they had really taken a trip to Gate of Hell. They almost couldn't return. There are so few of us left? Palace Master Wu Luo's face grew in distress. He looked at the people around him and he couldn't help but shiver. The experts from Abysmal Palace looked around and lowered their heads simultaneously. The reason why they lowered their heads was that they were embarrassed. One should know that they had sent out a troop of 18 Almighties in the beginning. Among the 18 Almighties, there were 3 Emperor Gods and 15 Sir Gods. It was a terrifying team formation. But then, with one glance, the people who were still standing in the void were only 9 in total. Yes, only 9 left. There were 2 Emperor Gods, Palace Master Wu Luo and Emperor God Luo Xian. The remaining 7 were Sir Gods. Among the 9 of them who were alive, every one of them was pale and they were injured. As for the other 9 people, they had been killed in the fight earlier. 9 Almighties, including Emperor God Dan too, passed away during the fight. On the other hand, there wasn't any death in the other party. Was it really Abysmal Palace that had such a result? Abysmal Palace, whose overall foundation and power were in the top 3 in Sanctuary Alliance, had been beaten up by Lineage of Star? Saint Master wanted me to kill Jian Wushuang and destroy Lineage of Star along the way. I have to figure out ways to get my hands on the secret skill of Star Palace as well. But now, Abysmal Palace was defeated heavily in the fight. How do I report to Saint Master? Palace Master Wu Luo looked distressed. Not only we couldn't report in, but Abysmal Palace's overall power also diminished. We would even become Sanctuary Alliance's laughingstock for quite a while. Jian Wushuang, Jian Wushuang. This time, Abysmal Palace is doomed. We will definitely remember this. In no time, I will definitely repay in 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times. Just you wait, Palace Master Wu Luo roared and led the experts from Abysmal Palace to leave very quickly. Chapter 1865 Great Prison. Universe Galaxy, inside the base of the Lineage of Star. During this period of time, news of the Star Palace Master dying had already spread to the outside world. As for the experts and disciples in the Lineage of Star, they had also heard about the news and they felt restless. However, with Hall Master Yuan reassuring them, there was no trouble. The Lineage of Star was just like before. As for Hall Master Yuan, he was waiting quietly for the results of the battle to spread. During that battle, scouts from all the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance were present. Naturally, the scouts from the Lineage of Star were present as well, and there was a large number of them. The course of events in the battle was relayed to Hall Master Yuan immediately. When he knew that Jian Wushuang and his group of people had had a huge victory and that they were on their way back, he heaved a sigh of relief. In no time, Jian Wushuang and the 2 Hall Masters returned to the Star Palace. Let's welcome the triumphant return of our 3 heroes. Hall Master welcomed them, laughing loudly. Jian Wushuang and the 2 Hall Masters laughed heartily. After this battle, our lineage of Star has revealed a great force of deterrent. Next, Hall Master Yu, please go ahead and settle that matter, Jian Wushuang said. Hall Master Yuan's expression changed. He knew which matter Jian Wushuang was referring to. Previously, before the news of the Star Palace Master dying had spread, the lineage of Star had been doing recruitment secretly by offering many experts who traveled alone attractive deals. Among these experts who traveled alone, some of them were attracted. However, the lineage of Star did not get them to give their answer right away. After the news of the Star Palace Master being dead was spread, these experts who traveled alone hesitated again. After all, it was risky for them to join the lineage of Star at this point of time. Jian Wushuang had known about this a long time ago. Hence, he had never pressed them for replies but instead gave them enough time to consider. It was not until the recent battle where the lineage of Star had defeated the Abysmal Palace head-on and was powerful enough to frighten everyone that he had made it known to those experts that the lineage of Star possessed absolute abilities and confidence to deal with any kind of danger. At this stage, they could show themselves for real and officially invite those experts who traveled alone. Hall Master Yuan, how many experts do you think you can recruit successfully? Hall Master Guexen looked at Hall Master Yuan. Before the battle with the Abysmal Palace, I had no confidence at all, and being able to recruit about 2 to 3 Almighties was already considered not too bad. However now, I reckon that I can recruit at least 10 experts who traveled alone and were also at the level of Almighty. Moreover, the numbers might even be more, Hall Master Yuan laughed. That's great. The eyes of Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun brightened up. I shall leave this matter to you, Hall Master Yuan, Jian Wushuang said. No problem, Hall Master Yuan was extremely confident. While Jian Wushuang was still having a discussion with regards to some matters with the 3 Hall Masters, Jian Wushuang's expression changed abruptly. What's wrong? The 3 Hall Masters looked at Jian Wushuang at the same. Do you remember that after I destroyed the Deluge Fortress, I told all of you that I used the price of 1 Chaos Divine Treasure level armor to recruit that Emperor God Jiao-yin to the lineage of Star? Emperor God Jiao-yin agreed to it on the spot. However, he needed some time. And now, Emperor God Jiao-yin has already arrived outside the universe galaxy, Jian Wushuang said while stroking his nose. Emperor God Jiao-yin? Emperor God Jiao-yin has come? Hall Master Yuan and the 2 other Hall Masters were over the moon. After all, Emperor God Jiao-yin was a genuine Emperor God expert. Although he was not a peak Emperor God, he was definitely a great fighting force to the lineage of Star. Let's go. Follow me and let's welcome Emperor God Jiao-yin together, Jian Wushuang laughed. Hall Master Yuan and the 2 other Hall Masters naturally followed behind Jian Wushuang. In no time, the 4 of them arrived at the edge of the universe galaxy. Emperor God Jiao-yin, as Jian Wushuang looked at the unusually evil black-robed young man at the void in front, he revealed a smile. Sword Emperor. Emperor God Jiao-yin walked over right away, and after he came before Jian Wushuang, he greeted him kindly. As for the 3 Hall Masters behind Jian Wushuang, he nodded his head to signal to them. After that, he spoke. I have said before that within thousands of years, I would definitely come to the lineage of Star. Now that I have come, I wonder if the lineage of Star and you, Sword Emperor, are still willing to accept me? Of course we accept you, Jian Wushuang laughed apathetically. Emperor God Jiao-yin, for you to be willing to become a guest elder of the lineage of Star, the lineage of Star is greatly honored by your presence, Hall Master Yuan said. Emperor God Jiao-yin grinned and said abruptly, Oh right. When I was on my way here, I heard that the Abysmal Palace had fought their way here. What is the situation now? The Abysmal Palace has already retreated, Jian Wushuang said. Retreated? Emperor God Jiao-yin was surprised. What happened? The Abysmal Palace is a super big powerhouse that is ranked in the top 3 in the Sanctuary Alliance. Moreover, they have been extremely aggressive and it is impossible for them to have a good start but a poor finish. Since they came for the lineage of Star this time around, they would definitely attack you. Strange, and I still hurried here at my fastest speed, hoping that I would be of some help to all of you. Upon hearing Emperor God Jiao Yin's words, Jian Wushuang's heart twitched. He could tell that Emperor God Jiao Yin had just happened to head to the lineage of Star. However, after hearing the news about the Abysmal Palace taking action against the lineage of Star, he had made the best use of his speed to hurry over to help them immediately. However, it was a pity that he was too late. Emperor God Jiao Yin, you are right. The Abysmal Palace never let their enemies off. Since they said that they would take action, they would definitely take action. However, it's a pity that you are too late. Not long ago, my lineage of Star already fought an intense battle with the Abysmal Palace. Moreover, we defeated them, Jian Wushuang said. Defeated them? Emperor God Jiao Yin was dumbfounded. The lineage of Star defeated the Abysmal Palace head-on? Is this a joke? Could it be that the Star Palace Master took action personally? The Palace Master did not take action. However, the Abysmal Palace has indeed been defeated by us. Moreover, they retreated with a great defeat. This piece of news will probably be made known to you soon, Jian Wushuang said. After hearing what was said, Emperor God Jiao Yin was shocked. He then raised his head and looked at Jian Wushuang with astonishment. After that he calmed down slowly. Forget it. It's all good since they have been defeated. Emperor God Jiao Yin laughed and looked at Jian Wushuang again. Sword Emperor, back then, when you used a Chaos Divine Treasure level defense armor to recruit me into the lineage of Star, I said that I would look for you after a few years and I would also bring you a great present. Now, it's time for me to fulfill my promise and I have brought you the great present. A great present? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Back then, Emperor God Jiao Yin had indeed said that. However, Jian Wushuang was not concerned with it at all. He had not expected Emperor God Jiao Yin to actually bring him a great present. I wonder what this great present is? Jian Wushuang questioned while laughing. With his abilities and identity then, normal treasures and opportunities would be unable to attract his attention. Hence, what kind of item would be considered a great present to him? Chapter 1866 Sword Emperor. With Jian Wushuang's eager expectation, Emperor God Jiao Yin flipped his hand and took out a token in sword shape. The token gave out an extremely unique aura. He could tell that it was some kind of token with one glance. This is... Jian Wushuang looked confused. He didn't know anything about sword-shaped tokens. Not only Jian Wushuang, but Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun reacted similarly. Only Hall Master Yuan was surprised when he saw the token. After he took another careful look, he exclaimed, "This is Emperor Sword Palace's Sword Principal Inheritance Token." Emperor Sword Palace? Sword Principal Inheritance Token? Jian Wushuang was surprised. "Your Excellency, you must be Hall Master Yuan from Lineage of Star." Emperor God Jian Yin smiled at Hall Master Yuan. "Your Excellency has good eyesight. You recognized the token with one glance." "You're right. This token is Emperor Sword Palace's Sword Principal Inheritance Token. As for its value, as Hall Master Yuan can recognize it, you should know." Hall Master Yuan nodded heavily. He, of course, knew the price of the token. "A huge present, it is really a huge present," Hall Master Yuan complimented. "Hall Master Yuan, what's going on? What's the origin of the Sword Principal Inheritance Token?" Jian Wushuang asked. Hall Master Wushuang. As Emperor God Jiao Yin had yet to verify the death of the Master of Star Palace, Hall Master Yuan still referred to Jian Wushuang as Hall Master Wushuang instead of Palace Master in front of Emperor God Jiao Yin. "You should have heard of Emperor Sword Sect, right?" Hall Master Yuan asked. "Of course, I know," Jian Wushuang nodded. "Emperor Sword Palace is one of the major forces in Sanctuary Alliance. They are extremely ancient and their foundation is strong. Although the power isn't as fierce as Abysmal Palace and Soaring Heaven King Palace, their positions in Sanctuary Alliance is extraordinary." Hall Master Wushuang, you only know that Emperor Sword Sect is very old, but you don't know about its origins. Emperor Sword Sect is actually related to a super expert from the First Era, Hall Master Yuan said. First Era? Jian Wushuang stunned. After ancient times, it had been the First Era. After the First Era collapsed, the Second Era derived from it, which had made eternal chaotic world. Hall Master Yuan started explaining, among the three eras, ancient times were the strongest, followed by the First Era. Ancient time is too long ago, and the experts of eternal chaotic world could only find traces of ancient times from the ancient battlefield. However, the First Era is considered rather close to us. Although the First Era couldn't be compared to ancient times long ago, there were many top experts and geniuses, especially some super experts, who stood at the peak. Their potential and talent are actually much higher than experts in ancient times. But due to the restriction of the environment during the First Era, they couldn't match evenly with experts in ancient times. In this era, there were once many super experts. For example, the higher leader of ancient tribe, Ancient God Emperor, who was a 10-star ancient god, his power was above Great Emperor. Also Emperor White, he was from the First Era as well. Back then, he was famous and highly positioned. These two were considered true big figures back in the First Era, and they were considered super experts on the peak. However, their powers were merely in the top 10 in the First Era, not the top 3. Jian Wushuang was convinced when he heard that Ancient God Emperor and Emperor Bai were powerful, especially as Ancient God Emperor was the leader of Ancient God, a 10-star ancient god. Actually, his power had already exceeded the range of chaotic realm, but they couldn't be listed in the top 3 in the First Era. How scary would the top 3 be? The top 3 in the First Era, they were super experts who could truly break the sky and split heaven. Even if they were to be in ancient times, they were extremely talented figures. Ever since the First Era collapsed, the top 3 and many experts in the First Era died. Only Emperor Bai remained alive. Among the 3 super experts, the one on the 3rd place was Sword Emperor Dugu. Hall Master Yuan said, Sword Emperor Dugu? Jian Wushuang stunned. He didn't know much about the First Era. It was also his first time hearing Sword Emperor Dugu's name. However, judging from the name itself, Sword Emperor Dugu was definitely an expert who was good with a sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the nickname of Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor Dugu had impressive swordsmanship. He was widely acknowledged as the first man in sword principle. It is said that although most of his sword principles were self-invented, his strongest and scariest sword principle was from ancient times. When the First Era collapsed, Sword Emperor Dugu died. However, many years ago, when it came to the Second Era, eternal chaotic world started, and there was a Sir God who happened to obtain Emperor Sword Palace that Sword Emperor Dugu left behind. Emperor Sword Palace contains sword principle and sword intention, and the Sir God happened to be good at sword too. He was the first who entered Emperor Sword Palace, and he received the greatest opportunity and advantage. After that, his power increased tremendously, and he even broke through and reached Emperor God level. He used Emperor Sword Palace as his base and started Emperor Sword Sect. Then, Emperor Sword Sect started passing down until now, Hall Master Yuan explained. I see, Jian Wushuang understood. He had heard of Emperor Sword Sect long ago, but he had never expected Emperor Sword Sect to be related to Sword Emperor Dugu, who was powerful in the First Era. Then, what's this Sword Principle Inheritance Token? Jian Wushuang asked. Sword Principle Inheritance Token is the token to enter Emperor's Sword Palace. Although the greatest opportunities and advantages in Emperor Sword Palace were taken by the founder of Emperor Sword Sect, some of the opportunities couldn't be taken away but could only be kept within Emperor Sword Palace. Emperor Sword Palace opens once every 1 million years, and every time it opens, only those who hold Sword Principle Inheritance Tokens are qualified to enter. Just like Emperor Sword Sect, although they control Emperor Sword Palace, their men can't enter if they do not have Sword Principle Inheritance Tokens. Hall Master Yuan paused and continued, there's a total of 5 Sword Principle Inheritance Tokens. Under normal circumstances, Emperor Sword Sect would keep 2 for themselves and distribute the other 3. In the end, the luckier sword experts would get them. They enter Emperor Sword Palace with the Sword Principle Inheritance token, and they could receive inheritance of Sword Principle, which was extremely helpful to their swordsmanship. Plus, legend says that if one received sufficient opportunities and possessed talent, he would stand a chance to receive the terrifyingly powerful ancient sword principle that Sword Emperor Dugu controlled. Chapter 1867 Frightening Everyone. I see, Jian Wushuang understood, I am proficient in sword principles. In other words, this Emperor Sword Palace will be of great use to me. That's right. Even to great Emperor-level experts who are proficient in sword principles, the Emperor Sword Palace that Sword Emperor Dugu has left behind would be extremely useful. Hence, it would naturally be even more useful to you, Hall Master Wushuang. Hall Master Yuan laughed. However, this sword principle inheritance token is extremely rare. Emperor God Jiao-yin, how did you obtain it? I was able to obtain it as I was lucky, Emperor God Jiao-yin grinned. Before Sword Emperor invited me to the Deluge Fortress, I got to know that a Sir God possessed a sword principle inheritance token by coincidence. Back then, I was not too concerned with it. However, after I was recruited by you, Sword Emperor, I thought about it. Hence, over the past few years, I found that Sir God and used some methods to obtain this sword principle inheritance token easily. Is that so? Your luck is not too bad, Hall Master Yuan gasped. Emperor God Jiao-yin. Jian Wushuang looked in the direction of Emperor God Jiao-yin. Thank you very much. I shall accept this sword principle inheritance token. There is no need for you to be so modest. Although this sword principle inheritance token is valuable, it is still comparable to a Chaos Divine Treasure level defense armor. Emperor God Jiao-yin laughed heartily. Oh right. From what I know, the Emperor Sword Palace will open up again in another 300 years' time. If you wish to go there, you had better hurry. In another 300 years' time? Jian Wushuang frowned. With 300 years of time, he would be able to make it in time. However, the most important thing was that the lineage of Star was in great danger. At such a stage, wouldn't he not be able to make time to go there? Hall Master Wushuang, you may set your mind at ease and go. Hall Master Yuan could tell that Jian Wushuang was worried and he laughed immediately. After teaching the Abysmal Palace a lesson, for a short period of time, the experts from the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance will probably not have the guts to attack the lineage of Star again. Even if they were to really attack us, it would probably only be after another thousands of years. According to what I know, every time the Emperor Sword Palace opens, one can only stay inside for 1,000 years' time and you will definitely be able to make it back in time. The only troublesome thing is the Emperor Sword sect, as they might not let you enter the Emperor Sword Palace. But Jian Wushuang was puzzled. He was confident that he had asked Hall Master Yuan before in the past. Hence, he already knew the big powerhouses that had a grudge against the lineage of Star. For example, the Divine King Island, the Real Martial Arts Divine Church, and the Highest Heaven Emperor Mansion all had a huge grudge against the lineage of Star. However, among those big powerhouses, the Emperor Sword sect was not included. Since there were no grudges between them and Jian Wushuang really possessed the sword principle inheritance token, why would the Emperor Sword sect not let him enter the Emperor Sword Palace? There are indeed no huge grudges between the lineage of Star and the Emperor Sword sect. This is not fake, and at the very least, no experts from either side have died at the hands of the other. Even if there were, both sides do not know about it. However, although there are no huge grudges, there are small conflicts. For example, when Palace Master, Star Palace Master, was traveling in the second lair in the past, he fought with the current sect master of the Emperor Sword sect for his own benefit. Moreover, he also caused the Emperor Sword sect master to suffer huge losses, and he lost all his face in front of everyone. Although this was only a small episode and it was not at the stage where both of them would take action to kill each other, the Emperor Sword sect master still remembered it. Now, since you wish to enter the Emperor Sword Palace, you definitely have to obtain the approval of the Emperor Sword sect first. Perhaps the Emperor Sword sect would not take action to attack you, but they would probably make things slightly more difficult for you, Hall Master Yuan said. I see, Jian Wushuang understood. Let's not care about this Emperor Sword sect. After all, I still have 300 years of time. During this period of time, I will stay in the lineage of Star and take a look at the reactions of all the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance. If there are really no movements from them, I will go to the Emperor Sword sect 300 years later. All right, Hall Master Yuan nodded his head in approval. Emperor God Jiao-yin, this is the first day where you have become the guest elder of the lineage of Star. I will get people to prepare a banquet immediately, and during the banquet, I will announce this to everyone, Jian Wushuang said. Please go ahead. Emperor God Jiao-yin did not stand on ceremony. Under Jian Wushuang's personal guidance, he took a step into the universe galaxy. With Palace Master Wu Luo leading them personally, the large number of experts from the Abysmal Palace fought their way into the Starland, attracting a lot of attention. However, in the end, before they could reach the doorstep of the lineage of Star, they were defeated by the experts of the lineage of Star who Jian Wushuang led and were forced to escape. Among the 18 Almighties, a total of 9 of them were killed on the spot. Even Emperor God Dan II, an Emperor God-level genius, died in that battle. The moment this piece of news spread, the Sanctuary Alliance burst into an uproar. It should be known that previously, when they had gotten to know that the Abysmal Palace was going to attack the lineage of Star, the experts of all the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance had thought that it would be the end of the line for the lineage of Star. However, who could have expected the end results to be as such? Moreover, during that battle, the large number of trump cards that the lineage of Star had unleashed had caused the experts of quite a number of powerhouses to be extremely terrified. Those 30 bronze-armored Dao soldiers. Although Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun were merely Sir Gods, they actually possessed chaos divine treasures? In the end, the most shocking thing had been the frightening fighting capabilities that Jian Wushuang had revealed. 8th level. This Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time doctrine has actually achieved the standard needed to clear the 8th level of the Doctrine Palace? Even though his level of comprehension of the space-time doctrine is so high, he still hid it all the while. This Jian Wushuang has really hidden his abilities so deeply. Since his level of comprehension of the space-time doctrine is so high, the golden swords that he controls will become extremely frightening. Just 3 of them alone were able to give Palace Master Wu Luo a great amount of pressure. With 4 of them, even Palace Master Wu Luo was completely suppressed. When further combined with the ancient god's secret skills that Jian Wushuang unleashed, he actually defeated Palace Master Wu Luo head-on. Previously, I thought that it was a bit too much to put Jian Wushuang in the top 30 of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, looking at it now, after this battle, his ranking will definitely rise again. At the very least, he will have a higher ranking than Palace Master Wu Luo. However, I wonder what his ranking will be? Countless experts were chatting enthusiastically. As for those powerhouses who were restless and wanted to attack the lineage of Star, they became quiet again. There was no choice. The results of this battle were something that they had never expected. Originally, they had thought that with the Abysmal Palace taking action personally, it would be enough to force the lineage of Star to its limit and the lineage of Star's situation then would be revealed. However, in the end, after the battle, the lineage of Star had become even more unfathomable. Because, to date, they still did not know how those Dao soldiers and Chaos Divine treasures were obtained. On top of that, they were unable to confirm whether the Star Palace Master was dead or alive. Hence, they did not dare to act recklessly. In no time, the rankings in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list underwent some changes again. At that point, Jian Wushuang, who was originally ranked 30 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, was ranked 22. Chapter 1868 Calm. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, they recorded super experts on the peak of the universe in Eternal Chaotic World. For the experts on the list, any increase of ranking would require convincing battle achievement. It was extremely difficult. But then, Jian Wushuang had risen from the 30th place to the 22nd place directly. He increased a total of 8 rankings in an instant. Most interestingly, The original 22nd place on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list had been Emperor God Tianling from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang shared great resentment with Soaring Heaven King Palace, but he had never fought with Emperor God Tianling. Then, Jian Wushuang had raised his ranking directly while Emperor God Tianling had fallen to the 23rd place. Of course, regarding Jian Wushuang's current ranking, the experts in Sanctuary Alliance were doubtful. Some thought that Jian Wushuang had relied on his 4 Hongjun Golden Sword to suppress Palace Master Wu Luo in the 25th place miserably and his power should be above Emperor God Tianling's. But there were some who thought although Jian Wushuang's Hongjun Golden Sword was strong, Emperor God Tianling could withstand it directly. Once the 4 Hongjun Golden Swords failed to create great advantage for Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Tianling could totally defeat him. Both parties had their reasoning but no one could clearly determine who was stronger. Time flew past. In the blink of an eye, 280 years had passed. In the 280 years, eternal chaotic world was calm. The forces and experts who were preparing to pound at Lineage of Star had reined themselves in and no one dared to act hastily. The victory of Lineage of Star in the fight with Abysmal Palace had served as a deterrent. Even Abysmal Palace, who was in the top 3 major forces in Sanctuary Alliance, were defeated by Lineage of Star and suffered great losses. Which other major forces in Sanctuary Alliance had the power and confidence to fight Lineage of Star alone? As for teaming up, the forces and experts considered it before. However, the biggest problem still lay there, which was if the Master of Star Palace had really died. As long as the answer was uncertain, the forces and experts wouldn't dare to join forces. Because once they united to attack Lineage of Star, it would be a decisive battle. By then, if the Master of Star Palace wasn't dead and they started to massacre in madness, the forces and experts would be doomed. During the calm times, Lineage of Star had received an extremely precious chance to gasp for air. In the hall, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun gathered together. As for Emperor God Jiuyin was a guest elder after all. Lineage of Star wouldn't restrict him too much, and it was temporarily unsuitable for Emperor God Jiuyin to know the secret in Lineage of Star. Hall Master Yuan, how did the recruitment go? Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. Not bad. Currently, there are 4 Almighties that made a decision and they are willing to be guest elders in Lineage of Star. Once Lineage of Star is in danger, they will lend a helping hand. Among the 4 Almighties, there are 3 Sir Gods and 1 Emperor God Shen Wu. Hall Master Yuan said, Emperor God Shen Wu? Jian Wushuang was surprised. He knew of Emperor God Shen Wu. Among Emperor God experts in Eternal Chaotic World, his power could be considered at the bottom. In terms of attack power, he was slightly stronger than an ordinary Sir God. However, he was best at defense power. Not only was his defense power strong, he also knew many kinds of defense skills, secret skills and powers. Although Emperor God Shen Wu's power is ordinary, he is truly an Emperor God expert after all. To Lineage of Star, he is also a helping hand, Jian Wushuang said. Not bad, Hall Master Yuan nodded and he smiled. Actually, Emperor God Shen Wu is actually not weak, especially his defense power and body protection power. He is only not too good in strength and close combat skill. He knew that too. Hence, when he was wandering in the 2nd lair and the 3rd lair, and also when he was wandering in Ancient Mystery Land, he took the risk to wander in dangerous places. His goal was to get a chaotic divine treasure level divine weapon that suited him. However, he wasn't very lucky and he didn't get anything. Then, Lineage of Star offered to give him a suitable chaotic divine treasure level attack divine weapon and that made him really happy. He even said on the spot that the divine weapon itself was worth his life. Then, Emperor God Shen Wu already came out from Ancient Mystery Land. I reckon he will arrive at Lineage of Star in no time. Emperor God Shen Wu and the other 3 Sir Gods who agreed to become guest elders, take good care of them. You can pass them the agreed chaotic divine weapon first, but they have to guarantee that they will lend a helping hand when Lineage of Star is in danger. Otherwise, if take advantage of Lineage of Star but run away during crucial times, that's not something we want, Jian Wushuang exhorted. Don't worry. These experts that I have invited, their reputation are not bad. As they agreed, they shouldn't go back on their words. Plus, when I give them their chaotic divine treasure, I will, of course, set some restrictions, Hall Master Yuan said. That be best. Jian Wushuang nodded and then he looked around. In recent years, the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance were quite calm. It seems that the fight with Abysmal Palace took great effect. Now, unless Ancient Mystery Land closes and they confirm that the Master of Star Palace has passed away, no one will dare to take action against Lineage of Star. Hence, I will prepare to head to Emperor Sword Sect now. Before I go, I will leave all Dao soldiers behind as well. Besides, Jian Yi will stay back in Lineage of Star. If, during the time when I cultivate in Emperor Sword Palace, Lineage of Star has any problem, you should be able to deal with it with Jian Yi and the Dao soldiers. Jian Wushuang knew that 100 bronze-armored Dao soldiers was an extremely fierce fighting power. On top of that, Jian Yi's current power was slightly stronger than himself. With him attending garrison duty personally, Jian Wushuang wouldn't be worried when he cultivated in Emperor Sword Palace. After delegating tasks, Jian Wushuang headed to Emperor Sword Sect alone. Emperor Sword Sect wasn't within 10 cultivation sanctuaries but in the vast void near the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Jian Wushuang departed from Lineage of Star via space wormhole. It only took 10 years to reach the void where Emperor Sword Sect was. That's where Emperor Sword Sect is. Jian Wushuang stood in the void as he looked at the piece of floating land while he revealed a creepy smile. Chapter 1869 Emperor Sword Esi. In another few years' time, it will be the day where the Emperor Sword Palace opens again, and it is obvious that the Emperor Sword Sect has already made preparations for it. Since they knew that some people would come to visit them during this period of time, they actually sent a Sir God expert to welcome them? Jian Wushuang stroked his nose. He had already realized the existence of a white-haired old man in front of the entrance of the Emperor Sword Sect. This white-haired old man stood at his position like an old monk who was sitting in meditation, and he did not care about the normal disciples and experts who entered or left the Emperor Sword Sect in the slightest. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate either. His body turned vague and he walked forward. While walking, Jian Wushuang released a portion of his god power intentionally. Upon feeling the existence of the god power, the white-haired old man who was sitting in meditation opened his eyes immediately and looked in the direction of Jian Wushuang. I am Tian Guzi. I wonder which friend of ours has come to the Emperor Sword Sect? The white-haired old man's hearty voice reverberated across the area. Tian Guzi? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. In no time, his body stopped before Tian Guzi and came into view. As the distance between them got shorter, Tian Guzi felt the aura that Jian Wushuang emitted and his expression changed at once. When Jian Wushuang's body came into shape completely and when he saw his looks clearly, Tian Guzi frowned. So it's the famous Sword Emperor. Nice to meet you. Tian Guzi greeted Jian Wushuang to show his respect. Although Jian Wushuang was only a real god, his abilities were already displayed. Tian Guzi was merely a normal Sir God. As such, he naturally treated Jian Wushuang with respect. I have heard that the Emperor Sword Palace that your sect controls will open up after another period of time, and I am here to pay a visit, Jian Wushuang laughed. As expected, he is here for the Emperor Sword Palace. Tian Guzi's heart felt heavy. The Emperor Sword Palace opening up soon was not a secret to begin with. Hence, during this period of time, quite a number of experts had paid a visit to the Emperor Sword Sect. Jian Wushuang was an expert who was proficient in sword principles. Hence, it was normal for him to pay a visit. However, there had been some episodes between the Emperor Sword Sect Master and the Lineage of Star's Star Palace Master in the past. Sword Emperor, please wait a moment. Let me first relay a message to my sect master to tell him that you have come, Tian Guzi said. You have to first send him a message to ask him? Aren't you here especially to wait for the large number of experts who made their way here to pay a visit? Could it be that you cannot make up your mind? Or are you trying to say that the Emperor Sword Sect does not welcome me? Jian Wushuang looked at Tian Guzi. How could I dare to do that? Tian Guzi shook his head repeatedly and laughed. As Sword Emperor is a super existence who is ranked 22nd on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, the Emperor Sword sect will naturally be afraid of you if you come here personally. I am now sending a message to my palace master to allow him to make ample preparations to welcome you, Sword Emperor. Is that so? Jian Wushuang laughed jokingly and did not say much. Tian Guzi sent the news of the arrival of Jian Wushuang to the Emperor Sword sect master right away. In a giant palace at the core of the Emperor Sword sect, there were figures which were emitting a large amount of aura sitting there. These people were all experts who had come to pay a visit before the Emperor's Sword Palace opened. Moreover, most of these experts were proficient in sword principles. The Emperor's Sword Palace was a place of opportunity which Sword Emperor Dugu from the First Era had left behind. At that moment, the greatest opportunity in the Emperor's Sword Palace was the Sword Principal Inheritance. For the Sword Principal Inheritance, only people who possessed the Sword Principal Inheritance token had the right to obtain it. However, there were merely 5 inheritance tokens. Moreover, 2 of them had always been in the hands of the Emperor's Sword Palace. In other words, there were only 3 Sword Principal Inheritance tokens that were circulating around the outside world. Every time the Emperor's Sword Palace opened, only 3 experts from the outside world could go deep into the Emperor's Sword Palace. However, there were some small opportunities for sword principles in the Emperor's Sword Palace. Hence, they were still attractive to quite a number of experts who were proficient in sword principles. Therefore, even though they did not possess sword principle inheritance tokens, every time the Emperor's Sword Palace opened, some experts would go out of their way to come over. The person who sat at the highest point of the hall was a red-robed man with dashing eyebrows. He was the Emperor's Sword sect master. However, at that moment, he was holding on to a wine cup and chatting with a purple-clothed woman who was before a long, narrow table. I did not expect that the Emperor's Sword Palace's opening this time around could actually get you, Luo Xianzi, to come personally as well. My Emperor's Sword sect is really honored by your presence. The Emperor's Sword sect master purred, and his words were filled with the intention to earn her favor. However, the purple-clothed woman's expression was extremely cold, and she merely used a few words to barely deal with the Emperor's Sword sect master's words. The Emperor's Sword sect master was not upset in the slightest. After all, he knew what kind of temper Luo Xianzi had. Just then, from outside the entrance of the sect, Tian Guzi's message came. What, Sword Emperor? The Emperor's Sword sect master's expression changed and he could not help but murmur. This Sword Emperor has actually come as well? There were no grudges between him and Jian Wushuang. Moreover, there were no big episodes between the Emperor's Sword sect and the lineage of Star either. However, he had once suffered big losses in the hands of the Star Palace Master. As such, he still harbored some hatred toward the Star Palace Master. Thus, it was difficult for him to not vent his anger on the experts of the lineage of Star. Hence, with regards to Jian Wushuang, he did not really welcome him. Everyone who comes is a guest. Since he has come, please let him in, the Emperor's Sword sect master messaged Tian Guzi. In no time, Tian Guzi led Jian Wushuang to the palace. The moment Jian Wushuang appeared, the large number of experts in the palace who were originally chatting and drinking quietened down right away. At that moment, all their eyes were locked onto Jian Wushuang. Without even needing Tian Guzi or the Emperor's Sword sect master to introduce him, all those experts already recognized him. As they had recognized Jian Wushuang's identity, the atmosphere in the palace became silent instantly. A mighty name was a good shelter. In the eternal chaotic world, Jian Wushuang's fierce name was too great. In particular, within the recent thousands of years, it was unknown as to how many almighties had died at his hands, and even a good number of emperor gods had died at his hands as well. As for the 10 over experts present, although all of them were almighties, apart from Luo Xianzi, no one could remain calm when they looked at Jian Wushuang. Moreover, there were a few people who felt terrified when they saw Jian Wushuang. For these people, the sects that they were in had huge grudges against the lineage of Star. Hence, when they saw Jian Wushuang, a murderous god, it was difficult for them to not feel fearful. After all, if Jian Wushuang were to go crazy and attack them, they would be doomed. However, fortunately, after Jian Wushuang entered the palace, He did not care about those people at all. Instead, his eyes locked onto Luo Xianzi right away. I did not expect her to be here as well? Jian Wushuang was surprised. With regards to Luo Xianzi, Jian Wushuang had never had any dealings with her before and he had not seen her before. However, with regards to Luo Xianzi's abilities, Jian Wushuang knew about them well. Peak Emperor God. Moreover, she was ranked 21st in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, which was right above him. Chapter 1870 deliberately made things difficult. Just as Jian Wushuang looked at Luo Xianzi, she looked at Jian Wushuang as well. In her cold eyes, there was a flash of surprise, but it disappeared very quickly. It's an honor to receive Sword Emperor. Please forgive me for not traveling far to welcome you, Emperor Sword Sect Master said. Although he wanted Emperor Sword to forgive him, he spoke highly of himself and stayed seated and never stood when he was talking to Jian Wushuang, who was a more powerful figure. It was obvious that he didn't care about Jian Wushuang. I am only a junior. How could I make Emperor Sword Sect Master welcome me personally? Jian Wushuang smiled and wasn't bothered. Hee, I heard that Sword Emperor is decisive in killing people. Whoever offends you will end miserably. But from what it seems, you aren't behaving as the rumors say. Sword Emperor is quite a friendly person, Emperor Sword Sect Master said with a smile. Friendly? Jian Wushuang smiled but didn't say anything more. Sword Emperor, I wonder why you came to Emperor Sword Sect today? Emperor Sword Sect Master finally asked. Emperor Sword Palace is going to open. I came here, of course, for Emperor Sword Palace's Sword Principal Inheritance Token. This is my Sword Principal Inheritance Token. Jian Wushuang took out his Sword Principal Inheritance Token. The moment the surrounding experts saw the Sword Principal Inheritance Token, they were surprised. Emperor Sword Sect Master saw it and he creased his eyebrows. He knew that Jian Wushuang had come for Emperor Sword Palace, but he hadn't known that Jian Wushuang had a Sword Principal Inheritance Token. The Sword Principal Inheritance Token was hard to get. Among the Almighties there, only Luo Xianzi had a Sword Principal Inheritance Token. Everyone else didn't have one. Emperor Sword Sect Master, I heard that I can enter Emperor Sword Palace to receive Sword Principal as long as I have Sword Principal Inheritance Token. I wonder if it's true? Jian Wushuang asked. Sword Emperor, don't worry. Emperor Sword Sect Master smiled. Sword Principal Inheritance Token is the only proof to enter Emperor Sword Palace and receive Sword Principal, this is true. However, over the years, Emperor Sword Palace has been opened many times and the appearance of Sword Principal Inheritance Token is well known to the public. Naturally, there are many people with wicked intentions who forged the Sword Principal Inheritance Token. The outer appearance and the aura are the same as the real one, but in actual fact, it might be an imitation. Emperor Sword Sect Master, what you're saying is that the Sword Principal Inheritance Token in my hand is fake. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes slightly. The surrounding people gasped a breath of cold air and thought that Emperor Sword Sect Master had the guts to say nonsense. There were genuine and imitated Sword Principal Inheritance Tokens, that was true. However, firstly, forgery of Sword Principal Inheritance Token was very rare. Secondly, even if it was really forgery, it would at most be circulated in Eternal Chaotic World and be sold to people who didn't know what it was at a high price. In other words, people who had more money than sense. Who would come to Emperor Sword Sect with a forged Sword Principal Inheritance Token. Everyone knew that Emperor Sword Sect could differentiate true or false Sword Principal Inheritance Tokens. Under such circumstances, weren't those who brought forged tokens asking to be snubbed? Besides, if it was a universe god or real god who took out Sword Principal Inheritance Token, it might be a forged one. However, the one who had taken out the Sword Principal Inheritance Token was Jian Wushuang. How could Sword Emperor take out a forged item? It was impossible, but Emperor Sword Sect Master had said so. It was obvious that he wanted to deliberately make it difficult for Jian Wushuang. Emperor Sword Sect Master chuckled when he noticed Jian Wushuang's change of expression. Sword Emperor, don't misunderstand me. I didn't say that the Sword Principal Inheritance Token that you brought is fake. But Emperor Sword Palace only opens once every 1 million years and there is a limited quota. It's best to be more careful. You're right, Jian Wushuang looked calm. No one could guess his feelings. If so, Emperor Sword Sect Master shall determine the authenticity of the Sword Principal Inheritance Token personally. Then, Jian Wushuang threw the Sword Principal Inheritance Token in his hand to Emperor Sword Sect Master. Emperor Sword Sect Master caught it and spread his palm. He didn't need to probe as he already knew that the Sword Principal Inheritance Token was real. He had done it with the intention to make it difficult for Jian Wushuang, but he didn't expect Jian Wushuang to give him the Sword Principal Inheritance Token directly. Wouldn't Jian Wushuang be worried that he would pull some tricks on Sword Principal Inheritance Token so it would become fake? Sword Emperor's Sword Principal Inheritance Token is true. Emperor Sword Sect Master chuckled and he passed Sword Principal Inheritance Token back to Jian Wushuang. As you have checked the authenticity of the token, can I enter Sword Emperor Palace now? Jian Wushuang asked coldly. Yes, of course. But Sword Emperor should know that Emperor Sword Palace is controlled by Emperor Sword Sect as well. Among the 5 Sword Principal Inheritance tokens, there are 3 tokens that Emperor Sword Sect took the initiative to distribute, including the one in Sword Emperor's hand. Since Emperor Sword Sect has offered such a great opportunity, we, of course, expect things in return. Emperor Sword Sect Master squinted his eyes and smiled at Jian Wushuang. Of course, I know that. I wonder what is the price that Emperor Sword Sect Master would like me to pay? Jian Wushuang looked calm. There was no free lunch in the world. Jian Wushuang knew that concept really well. Emperor Sword Sect controlled Emperor Sword Palace and they took the initiative to send out Sword Principal Inheritance Token. Their purpose of doing so was to receive sufficient benefits. The experts who had visited Emperor Sword Sect, even those who didn't have Sword Principal Inheritance Tokens but could receive meager Sword Principals, had to pay a price too. Emperor Sword Sect isn't asking for much. To Sword Emperor, it is nothing. 3 attack divine weapons and 1 defense armor. Emperor Sword Sect Master smiled. That's simple. Jian Wushuang lifted his head to look at Emperor Sword Sect Master. He flipped his hand and took out 3 Real God Limited Chaotic Unique Treasure Level Divine Weapons and a Real God Limited Chaotic Unique Treasure Level Defense Armor. I wonder if Emperor Sword Sect Master is happy with these items? Jian Wushuang asked. Real God Limited Chaotic Unique Treasure was valuable too. The total of 4 treasures should be worth more than 30,000 doctrine gems. It was already considered a costly price. However, Emperor Sword Sect Master looked at the 3 divine weapons and set of armor in disdain and said, I think Sword Emperor misunderstood me. The divine weapon and armor that I mentioned aren't unique treasures but chaotic divine treasures. What? Everyone in the hall was shocked. Jian Wushuang's eyes dilated in shock when he heard what Emperor Sword Sect Master said. Originally, I planned to allow you to make things difficult for me. After all, your Emperor Sword Sect is the one who is in control of Emperor Sword Palace. As long as you do not overdo it, on the account of Sword Emperor Dugu, it will be all right even if I were to suffer losses. However, it's a pity that you are too stupid. You are too arrogant. Jian Wushuang's voice resounded within the palace slowly and the hearts of the large number of experts from the Emperor Sword Sect twitched. They had a bad feeling. At the next moment, what they expected really happened. All of a sudden, frightening god power burst forth from Jian Wushuang's body and it was accompanied by an extremely powerful sword essence which wanted to tear the vault of heaven apart. The god power covered the Emperor Sword Sect instantly. Under the god power and sword essence, it was still all right for those almighties in the palace. However, as for some of the real gods of the Emperor Sword Sect who stayed in the palace, as well as the large number of disciples of the Emperor Sword Sect who were outside the palace, most of them knelt down instantly. As for those people who were close to Jian Wushuang, blood flowed out of their ears, noses and mouths. Such a scene caused the Emperor Sword Sect Master expression to change greatly. Jian Wushuang, please stop this. With a loud cry, An extremely powerful aura rose from the Emperor Sword Sect Master's body. Two frightening auras then clashed head-on in the palace. Boom. Under the attack of the two auras, the whole palace was smashed into pieces at once. The large number of experts inside the palace rose in succession. A large number of experts appeared at the void and at the same time, swoosh, 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 swoosh. A few figures flew over in succession from the surrounding. They were some of the almighties of the Emperor Sword Sect. Although the Emperor Sword Sect was not as powerful as the Abysmal Palace and Soaring Heaven King Palace. It was extremely old and it had a great foundation. On top of that, they were in control of the Emperor Sword Palace, a place that was rich in resources. Furthermore, they had a large number of experts. They had a total of 7 almighties. However, among them, the Emperor Sword Sect Master was the only Emperor God. Just then, the 7 almighties, which included Emperor Sword Sect Master, were standing together and they were looking at Jian Wushuang with anger. As for the experts who had come for the Emperor Sword Palace, all of them stood to the side and it was obvious that they did not want to be involved. Jian Wushuang, what are you trying to do? The Emperor Sword Sect Master's face was filled with fury. Jian Wushuang's suppression with his divine power previously had merely caused the consciousness of the disciples inside the Emperor Sword Sect to take some damage and no one had any serious injuries. However, Jian Wushuang's actions were the same as hitting the face of the Emperor Sword Sect. What am I trying to do? Could it be that the Emperor Sword Sect Master has not guessed yet? Jian Wushuang sneered. I have already said that this sect master of yours is too stupid. In actual fact, the moment I came to your Emperor Sword Sect, you should have treated me with respect. Not to mention making things difficult for me. If it were a sect master who was more sensible, he would probably be extremely modest and he would not get me to pay any price to enter the Emperor Sword Palace. Moreover, he might even think of ways to make friends with me. As he is certain of one thing. Not to mention the fact that I possessed the Sword Principal Inheritance Token, even if I did not have it, with my abilities, I would still be able to enter the Emperor Sword Palace easily without much effort. But yeah, no wonder even though the Emperor Sword Sect possessed the Emperor Sword Palace, which is rich in resources, it is still unable to come up on top in terms of ranking among the large number of big powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang sneered and this caused Emperor Sword Sect Master to have an even uglier expression. How impudent! Jian Wushuang, don't forget that you are now in my Emperor Sword Sect and you are not in your lineage of star, the Emperor Sword Sect Master said with flames of fury. Is that so? Jian Wushuang shook his head and laughed. You still do not understand. Be it the lineage of star or the Emperor Sword Sect, to me, aren't both of them the same? As soon as his words left his mouth, Jian Wushuang's body moved. In the Emperor Sword Sect, the base of the Emperor Sword Sect, Jian Wushuang commenced his attack. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.